Hi, welcome to the Roundabout Cast, episode 17.
Japanese edition. We're all gonna only speak in Japanese.
Konnichiwa.
Oh, do not do this. Stop
Willer,
right
no.
now.
Okay, well, we were gonna do it, but Willer already broke the streak, so we're
No,
not gonna do it
I
anymore.
saved you all. You should be thanking me.
Thank you.
Hey, we have a special guest on the podcast today. Why
Who
don't
is
you
it?
introduce yourself?
It's special guest Tyler back from the dead.
So, do you guys, faithful listeners, you remember that Tyler died on his way to his home planet, but he actually came back as Mecha Tyler, which is what we refer to him as now.
Don't ask what part of his body's mecha now.
Anyways, yeah, Tyler is joining us again today, so give him
Yeah.
a warm welcome with your ears. I'm
Feels
your
good
host.
to be rescued. Feels good to be back.
Yeah. I'm your host, Willer.
I am Bradley, lover, fighter, and heir to the throne of the Roundabout cast.
Oh, okay.
I'm Joe, spaghetti wrangler, musketeer.
And Tyler's there, not knowing this gimmick. Joe, what?
Abandoned space pirate Tyler back
Yeah.
at it again.
Yeah.
Wait, Joe, how come you didn't also do some kind of heir to the throne thing? You kind of dropped the ball this week.
I know, my bad. I'm shoving spaghetti down my face.
That's fine. Hey, we're starting this week off with Worm to give Joe and Tyler a little bit of time to just sit here and chill. But this week's Worm is brought to you by Changes. I wanted to switch up the format with our Worm discussions a little bit. We've been doing too much summarizing, which not only kills a lot of time, but also has me doing reactions to all sorts of things when if we wanted to be more efficient and also tackle all the best things, I figured that we could change the format up a little bit. And
Yeah. 'Cause
Bradley
I
agreed.
think, I think we can touch on all the really important stuff that we really want to talk about, and just kind of keep things more efficient because, like we said last week, we also talk about other things on this podcast, so we don't want other people to be just sitting here for an hour listening to something that they don't know anything about. But I think we can get really good discussion on Worm, but also, be kind of efficient about it.
So as a result, I've special tailored my notes, and the way it's going to work is I'm going to go through a very short summary of each chapter, and then I'm going to touch on my big topics I really wanted to talk about, and then kind of secondary topics, and Bradley will then come in if there's anything he wanted to talk about. He'll get those in as well, and then we'll just kind of, if we run out of stuff there, we'll just do a couple little more things, fill for time, but then we'll cut it off at a certain point because we've already discussed all the good stuff. So it is a nice structured discussion now.
Yeah, I think just having a short description of what the chapter is before we start talking about it is better than walking through each paragraph and then they went in this building and then they sat in this chair and then
Now, a result to this is it might actually be a little bit out of order because the things I would want to focus on might skip a chapter or two, but we might go back to the chapters we skip.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be too worried because I imagine hopefully anyone listening to this actively has already read this.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. The chapters I read this week were 13.4 through 13.7.
Good deal.
And so 13.4 is a fight chapter with Burn Scar Mannequin versus Gru, Bitch, Genesis, and Taylor. Then we had 13.5, which is just kind of a regrouping chapter afterwards, a little bit of a planning chapter. 13.6 is this big operation to potentially assassinate or capture some of the members of the Slaughterhouse 9. And then 13.7 is a bit of a chapter of the aftermath of that chapter as we get to see the results of their attempt.
And man, that attempt had I'd say probably some good successes, but also some really unintended
consequences.
Consequences.
Which that's one thing that I won't jump to it quite yet, but The first big theme and topic I want to get to about this section is Taylor going sicko mode. I think is a way we could put it, right? Where I felt like this chapter she has finally broken down to the point where she's now discussing actually killing these people, and not only discussing it, she's spurring people on to do it.
Yeah, I think like because we've seen it before and even talked about it, where right before Shatterbird did her thing, Taylor is like, "Man, I could totally just attack these people, maybe even kill one of them." And she goes through the practical reasons of why she should or should not attack them, but at the end of it, she kind of puts all that away and she's like, maybe I just don't have it in me to kill these people. But we've gotten to the point where that she's beyond that, and maybe there's a bunch of different reasons that she might be ready and willing to kill these people now. It could be that she's just seen firsthand what kind of monsters they are. It could be that they've pretty much destroyed this territory that she's been working up. It could also be that the reality of Dinah's prediction about Jack is finally hitting her, like, oh, maybe I really do need to kill this guy. In any case, she is like, these guys, they gotta go.
So there's 2 points I got here that I feel like are big contributing factors to this. In 13.4, so we actually do start in the beginning this time.
There you go.
She's, after they fight with Burnscar and Mannequin, she's running away from them, and she runs into Charlotte. They got kind of split up at some point, and Charlotte just has all these children that Mannequin attacked their parents in the whole struggle, and now they're all just orphans. And it's kind of interesting where he killed all the parents but left all the children. Is that some sort of restraint by him, or is that a form of torture by him? It's hard to say, because he deliberately didn't kill the children.
When it comes to members of the Slaughterhouse Nine, I would reckon that it's probably the more nefarious intent, but there is also the possibility that he was a father and he did have kids, and clearly, whether in a good way or a bad way, there's still a huge part of his emotions. I think Jack actually uses mentions of his past life and name and family to hurt him.
Yes.
So there is I never considered the possibility that maybe he didn't have it in him to kill these kids, which I think is an interesting take, but
it's I feel like you're right though. I think by default you should assume it's torture.
But I do think that is something that should be considered.
It's definitely worth a consideration. It's also hard to get a read on this guy because he literally doesn't speak. All he does is little motions because he's a mannequin body. So it's hard to say. I'll leave that in the open. But all this and all that's been happening, there's some passages about Taylor feeling weak and helpless, which now would be a good time to also bring up that this week, since I couldn't listen to more Worm during the downtimes of work, I decided to listen to We've Got Worm because Bradley's always talked up that podcast. So I started it, which brings me back to the early parts of Worm, which is also a really good way to jog my memory. It's been helpful.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best ways to revisit old parts.
Yeah, for sure. They're really thorough with their discussion. So a big theme in Worm in general, and that this has been true since the beginning, is just kind of helplessness and what that does to a person. And in the beginning, it was in the form of bullying, but I guess the story's kind of shifted from that, probably for the better. But now they've reintroduced this with the helplessness of just how strong and terrifying these 9 individuals are. I guess there's 8 of them. But then yeah, whatever. Getting technical here. How terrifying all these people are. And I feel like at this point, with enough encounters with Mannequin, Burnscar showing up, and them not really being able to do anything to her, it's Jack being Jack, it's just becoming abundantly clear that this is like a losing situation. So I feel like that's what's really spurring Taylor on to kind of finally pull the trigger, so to say.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the times that she's spurred into action is when she feels trapped, which um feeling trapped is kind of the
Kind
this like mindset of her trigger event,
of, yeah.
which for any person with powers, putting them in the mindset of their trigger event's gonna do some either really bad things or good things, probably bad things, but we've seen it before, and I think she's even conscious of it. Like, um, I think before she decided to officially join the Undersiders, her dad like locked her in the kitchen and gave her an ultimatum, and
Right.
obviously that was kind of the last straw with her.
That's when she
Uh,
left, right?
yeah, and she kind of does these. Whenever she does feel trapped, that's kind of when she will like decide she needs to ramp things up, and she definitely felt trapped here because I think her reasoning for like creating this plan and launching this counterattack against the Nine is that like she realizes that this game Jack has set up, it's set up in a way where they just aren't going to be able to win. She's like, we went up against one of the weakest members of the Nine, and we're already reeling this hard. She's like, we can't do this 7, 8 more times.
Right. To add on to that, I forgot to mention during the fight with Burnscar, she's blowing up multiple buildings, and it's all in her territory. And that's kind of been an overarching theme of the last few arcs, where Taylor is doing her best to deal with the situation, but also keep her villain territories intact because of her ultimate goal, which is to appease Coil and free Dinah. So that's definitely adding on to the pressure.
Yeah, like she's worked this hard. Like everything she's been doing in this territory is to save this girl, and then Burnscar and Mannequin pretty much just erased all that progress. And
Yeah.
so she's like, well, there's nothing else I can really do but hit him back.
So to culminate this point, I think part of the chapter that really caught me, or this reading section that really caught me, is when Taylor's asking all the travelers if they're willing to kill, and I was like, oh wow, she is spurring them. She's like, okay, will you guys kill them, and will you be like willing? I need a plan around this. So she's completely removed herself from even considering the question anymore, to where she's so ready to kill that she's spurring other people to kill. Which my joke about no one dies in Worm is quickly reaching the point where I won't be able to say that at all. 'Cause, there's no way Taylor's getting out of Arc 14 without killing a person. I'm calling it. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
You heard it here first.
You heard it
peeps.
here first, people who have read the series. Man, that was really interesting, and also how they all reacted to it, especially Sundancer, who's already killed someone. I don't think we got the full details, but it's heavily implied it was an accident, and that she always holds back as a result, which is something that's been brought up before in the story.
Yeah, and you kind of have to wonder because a lot of the travelers, I think specifically Sundancer and Ballistic they're extremely hesitant about killing people, which has to be very unfortunate considering they have like exclusively lethal powers.
Yeah, that was an interesting point as well. Ballistic was interesting because I don't really know much about this guy. Like, I feel like he's a character who has been mentioned in name, and we've seen him in a couple of like small skirmishes where he gets lost in those kinds of things because there's also 6 other people fighting
Yeah.
alongside him. So
I
it's
think
like,
Sundancer is probably the most characterized of them at
for
this point.
sure, yeah, and Trickster.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, just knowing that because it also comes back later, because when it is kill time, he can't shoot his warheads, where he's the most lethal. It's like, oh, if we're gonna assassinate them, it has to be you.
Yeah. And his
And-
moment of hesitation,
Was really interesting.
it
Actually.
feels just really, I think, organic to me because in the moment, he has the excuse of, oh, she looks like Sadie from 7th grade.
Yeah, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" No, she doesn't. But it's that's not the point. Like, he's like, "Oh, doesn't she look like Shady? Is she Sadie?" But what's really happening is that he's seeing like the humanity in these people, and that was a really good point. Yeah, that was one of the big things I wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah. And I just love that moment because, like, since obviously we're not the travelers and we don't know what this Sadie from 7th grade looks like, I like that there's like two alternate interpretations where one is that she actually does not look like this Sadie from seventh grade. Ballistic thinks she does, and Trickster's like, no, she doesn't. Don't worry, you're fine. The other interpretation is that she actually kind of does, but Trickster needs to convince Ballistic that she doesn't, so that he'll actually do it.
Both are good. I like both, and I
And
could definitely see both.
one other thing I like about that line is that it's just kind of a subtle way to give us information about how long the travelers have known each other
Yeah.
and kind of their relationship. Like, oh, these people clearly went to school together as kids.
There's a second big point I wanted to talk about. Look how good this is going. This is a good format.
I like this format better.
Any listeners, please let us know how you like this format. But
Then we get 5 comments. I hate this shit.
I'm sorry. We're trying our best. The next big thing that I wanted to talk about is all stuff that occurs in 13.7, which is the last one I read. This is after the encounter with the 9, after they failed, Gru's captured. They didn't really fail. There was some trades in here and there because they got 2, they got 1. But the point is that while they're in Cole's base and Cherish is locked up, she's calling everyone out because she's really good at sensing their emotions because that's her power.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really liked is how she calls Taylor out for her obsession. And then she's like, oh, but like, you're obsessed about this goal that you can't reach. She doesn't say it out loud. Like, she doesn't say, oh, you're obsessed about Dinah. Because I guess she can only feel that obsession about something.
Yeah.
But she's like, you're so obsessed and you know you're not going to get it. And you work so hard for it. And it was just so refreshing to see someone call her out on it. And also kind of finally show some doubt, I guess, like indirectly. Because Taylor's been really certain that Coyle's going to let Dinah go. And everyone knows he's not going to. I think even the other Undersiders are like, are you sure about his word? But, yeah, it was just interesting. It also happened right in front of Coyle. So this is a good seed for tension.
Yeah. I really like I like Cherish in situations like these a lot more, obviously, than combat, because her power kind of paves the way for stuff like this, where she can look at what a character's feeling and like vocalize it.
Yeah.
Which both works for non-POV characters, because obviously, like, if we're not in Regent's head, we don't know what he's feeling. But it even works for Taylor because, like, if Taylor doesn't understand what she's feeling or won't admit it to herself, we won't know it because she's our point of view. But Cherish can get like a more objective view on what Taylor's actually feeling and tell it to us.
Which is really good because I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but we've talked about it personally, how Taylor's an unreliable narrator. So this is a good way to kind of snap some objectivity into the chapter. So I really like that. I also like how they have the idea of like, hey, if you act up or don't cooperate with us, we're straight up just gonna tell the 9 where you are and just leave you there, and that terrifies her immediately, because we keep coming back to that line from Jack that I love so much, where Cherish knows that she's fucked.
Yeah, because getting kidnapped by these people actually is kind of winning the lottery for her. She's like, oh, thank God they took me away from those psychopaths.
She kind of let it happen where she didn't. I was like, that's one thing that was bothering me. It's like, okay, shouldn't Cherish be feeling them? Because she can sense multiple city blocks away. And then she's like, oh, well, I let that happen, idiots. Of course you couldn't have done that. But
yeah,
then also, what the fuck was the plan? They had to account for this, so I don't know about that one.
About Cherish, that is?
Yeah, they were only 2 blocks away, but they say she can feel people half a city away. So it's like...
I think Cherish's reasoning is that the reason she didn't immediately point them out is because she was like trying to make a deal with Imp.
Right. She even thought they were with Imp, and she was surprised that Imp didn't tell them.
She assumed like that they were in on the plan, and then as soon as they had it in their mind, like, okay, we're attacking, she's like, oh, fuck.
I kind of mean the opposite, though, where, like, how did they think the plan was going to work if they were within her range?
I think their idea was that as
Fuck
soon as
it.
they possibly can, um, they warhead her in the head.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeet her and leave her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. Some other interesting stuff Cherish brought up is how everyone blames Trickster for something. It's not discussed what, but the more and more time we spend with the travelers, the more and more interested I get in them and their whole ordeal.
I
Um,
wonder if we'll find out what that's all about.
I wonder if we'll get a juicy interlude at the end of probably this set of chapters going into it.
I wonder.
Eh?
Eh?
Um, so last big things here is I like when they reach out to the hero side and like, hey, we captured two of them. Regent has body hacked even one of them. Like, this is the best that any rogue group has ever done. We really need your help. And Miss Militia's like, no, like a lot of people, a lot of us die whenever we get in these conflicts with them. So you're on your own regardless of how well you're doing. And
Yeah.
she even calls out like she tells them kill them immediately because there's a kill order on them. And I just thought this was really cool, where it's like you're pardoned for murder on the behalf of like just how dangerous these 9 people are. It's like, hey, hero or villain, if you kill these guys, that's a free pass because
Yeah.
we really need to kill them.
I think it's pretty reasonable because
Oh yeah.
I don't imagine anybody would really miss Jack aside from us the readers.
Aside from me, deeply. Um, and then the last big thing here is Miss Militia is calling Taylor out. She's like, "Hey, do you remember all the bad things you've done? Because we have all these records of all the things you've done, like robbing banks and just general the villainy and taking over a territory. What side do you think? What side do you think you're on?" And then Taylor kind of like has a pretty good line about how she basically sees herself in the middle of it because good and bad have no real bearing. She's seen bad good people and good bad people at this point. And it felt pretty compelling. It was one of those times where it's like, so Taylor usually like finds a way to justify her actions, but given what she's been through, I felt like this was a pretty reasonable and cool answer for her to give.
Yeah, and I feel like it's very different than what Taylor would have said a long time ago because closer to the beginning of the story, even after having robbed a bank, if you would have asked her, she would have said, "Oh, no, 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 I'm a superhero."
Yeah, I'm undercover.
Yeah, and now she's like, what matters is what I'm doing, not necessarily the label I have on myself.
Yeah, slippery slope. But this is a good way to get her on that slope. I feel it's I really like that little portion. Those are all the main things I wanted to talk about. Bradley, were there any like urgent, cool things you wanted to bring up about this section? Anything you
Yeah.
wanted to ask me about?
And yeah, I think we hit a lot of the really big and cool stuff this arc. Um, Obviously, I really like the chapter where they're ambushing the 9, but we try not to really summarize those because I mean, just go read it for yourself, I guess.
Especially now,
Um,
the new format.
yeah. I think the like one last thing that I really tremendously loved was the circumstances around Burnscar's test for Rachel.
Right? Yeah.
Because she says she's basically going on about how I need you to get rid of like the people, or not the people. She says like I need you to get rid of what you care about most, and she's like I'm not gonna hurt my dogs, and she's like I'm not asking you to. Um, and so she delivers her test, which is to kill the other members of the Undersiders, and we can see her. She does not protest to this as quickly as she did at the thought of killing her dogs.
Yeah.
And even Taylor is like, "Oh God, she's considering it." Um, and I think we go pretty quickly into combat after that, and I don't think we really have the characters discuss the implications of all this until the next chapter. Taylor confronts her, and they have a big conversation where Taylor's like, kind of like, hey, are you all right? And also like, hey, like you really don't want to join the nine. And Rachel's just like, my life gets so much simpler if I just get rid of you, if I get rid of the Undersiders. And then Taylor's like, no, it doesn't, because like you'll get the nine off your case for a few days because of this test, but they're going to keep following you for the rest of your life. And she's like, I don't care about them either. Like, she says all she wants is to be left alone. And I think for a while she might have had some indecision after her initial conversation with Siberian about whether or not she would join the nine. Um, I think you were right that like any inclination she had to join the nine probably died whenever one of her dogs died.
Any real chance?
Yeah. And right now she's just at the point where she's like, I don't want to be with anybody. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with the nine. I just want to be left alone. But that's the thing, is that I think a big part of her character right now is trying to determine whether or not she is a dog or a wolf. Because the wolf is the more feral side, um, kind of the one that thrives on being more wild. It doesn't need people. It might need other members of its canine pack. But the dog is the more social side, the one that thrives on being around people. And I think she's struggling on being a dog right now.
Yeah, that points out to like Siberian giving her the wolf. I don't know if it's been confirmed if it's a wolf, but like it's clearly not a dog.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking it's a wolf puppy. So yeah, that it was like a reminder of that. So that's a cool way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah. And so bitch kind of like, she tries to cap off her and Taylor's conversation by saying like, all I want is to be left alone. And it's like, that might make her happier right now, but in the grand scheme of this character and like what she needs in her life, I think as much stress as she does get caused by being with the Undersiders, I do think she needs to stay with them. She needs to learn to be with people.
Taylor gives an equal part inspiring and equal part cringy friendship speech somewhere in the middle of that. Um, so that was some classic Taylor dialogue.
Yeah,
but,
and
but
like,
yeah, I hopefully it worked.
yeah, and she tries to do the whole like, we've gone through the same kind of stuff. Like she's like, I've been there.
We're the
And
same, you and I.
yeah, and Rachel's like, clearly we're not. Like, like Taylor's like, it's not a pissing contest, and she's like, yeah, because you lose. And I just realized I'm about to quote the whole conversation, but I think there is some kind of point here where they both have struggled with people in the past, and Taylor says something that strikes a chord with bitch, and Taylor even like picks up on it. She says, we're kindred spirits, we've both struggled with the social, and she cuts off. And I think there's two things here that might have even hit Rachel close to home. One, Taylor says we're kindred spirits, which I don't think I picked up on my first read through, but that's like word for word what Siberian had said to bitch. So she's probably like, well, if two of these clearly different people are both saying it, maybe they're both trying to manipulate me or something like that.
Or maybe one of them is right and I have to figure out which one it is.
Yeah. And then also just Taylor bringing up that Rachel struggles with social situations. We've been in Rachel's head now at this point, so we know how much that hurts her, knowing that she doesn't get people.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I really hope Rachel has some good stuff going on for her in the future.
I don't like the way you say that. I am fairly positive on Rachel and her future. I think she'll come around.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think that's good for Worm though. Yeah.
I really like this format a lot better. I think we spent a lot more time focusing on a much higher percentage of time focusing on the stuff that needs to be talked about.
And if there's one thing that happened that I didn't mention that I'm really excited for is Regent taking over Shatterbird. I like it whenever he's doing his crazy shit, and I think this would be a big swing, so I'm really excited to see how that impacts everything. That's what I got.
Next time? Find out
next time.
What?
Well, thank you for joining us on Take That, You Worm. I don't think I said it this time. Yeah. Joe, Tyler, come back to life. I use Monster Reborn.
I started that sentence and I realized I didn't know how I was gonna finish it. What happens next time? Find out
Next time.
time.
All right. Next up, I got a little short one for y'all. I watched the movie last week.
A movie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it up on the podcast for a little bit of variety.
Hit us.
It was called Ready or Not. Do
Here I
any
can
of you know anything about this movie?
Can you get maybe?
It's like sorority hazing, and they play hide and seek, and they have to go kill each other.
Okay, Joe knows some things about this movie, but that's a weird way to explain it. All right, so it'd be good if you guys haven't heard of it. I'm gonna spoil a little bit of the premise because I went in not knowing anything. A friend of mine invited me, and I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go. So this is a movie about a woman getting married into a family, and this family's rich. They profited off of games, so this includes hunting game, but also like board games. I think anything with the word game in it, they profited off of in some way.
Are they
Sounds
like
like an
the King family of games?
Yeah, exactly. So as like a ritual they have, or like a tradition, I guess, when someone marries into the family, they have to do game night. And what game night consists of is you drawing a card from this box, and this card has the game you're gonna play. So you could get something like Battleship, or Life, or Monopoly, or like maybe
Kill your family.
Yeah, well, there's one game in the box specifically that no one really wants to get, but if it pops up, the family has to do it, and it's called hide and seek. And what hide and seek is the bride goes and hides, or the husband, depending on who married into the family, and the family seeks, but they're seeking you with weapons, with the full intent of killing you.
Jesus.
And that's where the movie kicks off from. And the bride is like, "Oh, hide and seek. This is kind of a shitty wedding night. I haven't even gotten to consummate my marriage yet because we're doing this stupid game." So she's just hiding somewhere, and she's just waiting and waiting. And someone walks out with a gun and shoots one of the fucking server people of the house, thinking it's the bride. And that's when she's like, "Oh, wait a fucking second here." And then the movie just goes from there. It's like a dark horror, but also like it's comedic.
It sounds like the white person's Get Out, to be honest.
It's different. No, it's more like slashery than Get Out. A little less woke, a little more broke, if you know what I'm saying.
When did this movie come out? Is it recent?
Yeah, it's super recent. It's
Oh,
it's out
okay.
in theaters
In
right
theaters now.
now. Yeah.
Oh damn.
Go to that theater that we go to that we get the alcohol at.
Oh, yeah, did you get the movie pass thing?
I need to get that. But so I recommend watching this movie. 4 out of 5 for me. It's really fun. It's tense. There's some really tense scenes. It can get really, really gory, but there's also some really good dark humor. Like there's the family consists of a dad, his wife, his sister, his son and his wife, his daughter and her husband, and then his son and his wife, who is the wife who's getting married. And the son is like away from the family because like, dude, my family's fucking insane. We had to do hide and kids once when I was a child. Sorry, hide and seek when I was a child, and ever since then I was like, I cannot be part of this family because it's something that happens rare. Like no one else that married into the family that we see in this movie had to do hide and seek. They did normal games and they got instituted into the family. Why they have to do it is something you'll have to watch the movie for, but essentially it's like the daughter is like a klutz and she's always doing cocaine and drugs and accidentally killing people, and her husband is completely incompetent where he's looking up on YouTube how to arm a crossbow because all their weaponry has to be old weaponry. And then there's this drunk son who's the best character, and fun cast of characters, good setup, some good spooks, some good laughs. Recommend.
Any notable actors and or actresses?
So the main actress in it is like a kind of like new to the scene, where she looks like a Margot Robbie esque kind of girl, but she's not Margot Robbie. So no, that's
Neat.
I mean, no one that I could really remember or recognize from anything. And like the lead is definitely like a newer actress, so yeah, it's very unexpected fun time. I'm glad I went to watch it. But yeah. Okay. So next up, we got some video games we've been playing.
It's time. Duel.
We're okay. I promise we're all fine. No strokes. Um, a little video game called Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Edition came out on the Switch.
Evolution.
Link Evolution, very important.
Pardon. And me, Tyler, and Joe have been playing it. Not Bradley, because he only wants to summon Beaver Warrior and doesn't want to learn what a Zexal summon is.
I mean, why would you not? He's the most powerful monster.
There you
Don't
have it.
sleep on Beaver Warrior.
I'm sleeping very hard. So this is a $40 Switch game that has like almost all the cards that were like in prints in Yu-Gi-Oh. And there's no microtransactions, there's no DLC. It's just all in the game.
Mm-hmm. This is like the Game of the Year edition of this game because it's on PC as well, but everything like is basically like DLC you have to buy.
That's not true. So I bought this game for the PS4 when it came out originally, and it actually still had a crap ton of stuff, but there were some packs that were DLC, and most notably, it had no links and only had like the first Pendulum Summon pack. So you know how the Link pack in this game, there's only one pack? It was basically that, but for pendulums back then. So this has many more packs, many more cards. Definitely the one worth getting into. How you guys liking this game?
This is probably the best Yu-Gi-Oh game that Konami might have put out so far. It's got all the cards and it's got a very nice economy in order to get the cards.
Yeah,
For sure.
it definitely scratches that card game itch for me, where it's like, and it's great because it's $40 and I can still do the terrible grind of me just trying to get cards, but I don't have to pay a cent past that $40 to get those cards.
Let's be real though, the grind is kind of fun, right? Because one duel, if you lose, you get like 1.5 packs. If you win, you get like 2 to 3 packs. So it's like you're getting a lot of packs constantly.
Yeah.
So like it's just kind of fun just pulling without having to pay any money, aside from the money you put in.
I do have a couple of there are some glaring issues that'll probably be turned off for some people.
Oh, same.
You can't have a match online with your friends using unlimited cards.
That's true. That's a big bummer.
And that the biggest problem with that is the game hasn't been updated with the most recent ban list, which is a very easy thing to do. So you can't use cards that are currently unbanned or limited or semi-limited.
I doubt they'll change that too. Yeah, they won't update this. It's definitely a budget game too. It's very minimalist in its UI. That being said, it's the story mode, so it doesn't have a campaign like some of those Game Boy or DS games, which are always really fun. But what it does have is this alternate campaign where you get to go through all the duels, and all your opponents have pretty decent decks for who they are. Even Weevil is gonna have a deck that's oh wow, that's upgraded at least to modern standards. So it's still pretty fun to go through the single player, which is extremely long, by the way.
Oh god, it's so long.
It is the entire anime duels.
It's every single generation, front to back.
And when we say front to back, that includes reverse duels, where suddenly, now I get to play as Kaiba versus Yugi, as opposed to the other way around. And then you also unlock challenge duels, which is the character with the best deck that he could possibly have, basically. Where even Mako Tsunami has 3 mirror shields or whatever it's called.
Mirror Forces
in his deck. I'm why? You should have crappy cards. Really fun, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to play. Well, what's really gotten me into it this time is playing with you guys.
Yeah.
That's been pretty fun. Even though I'm definitely the worst of the bunch.
My biggest thing about this game, I enjoy this game. It's definitely worth the $40. But the biggest thing about this game is that it's extremely minimalistic, like you said, and it really shows off in the UI and the UX of the game because there are times where like this should be a really quick 3-turn duel, should win really quickly, but because of like the way some menus pop up or are presented, it just elongates it. Like there are times where like I think the menu is asking to activate one card or another card, and I activate it, and it's like, well, now you gotta destroy your own thing. It's like, well, fuck.
Well, to be fair, if you activate it and see it's not the right card, you can back out. Now, if you click on that card, now you have to play it. So
Yeah.
there's all these little things you have to learn how to fidget around.
Yeah, and it's for sure. But like, and the other thing is like they have these animations I wish you could turn off because after you've watched Dark Magician show up 3 times in a row in your game, you really don't want to see it again.
Yeah, that's a real bummer. Especially
Also,
for your deck, which is
I what would have made this game like super worth it, like ultimately worth it, is that they got the voice actors for the game back, and instead I'm just gonna skip every single one of these story cutscenes because I don't want to read them.
so the mobile game Duel Links has the voice actors, and it's the presentation of that game is freaking a tier. It's really good.
Yeah.
What is you guys? What is your experience with Yu-Gi-Oh in general? Because I've always been a casual fan, where I watched the cartoon growing up and I played the video games, but I've never owned the deck. I haven't really played in a while, so I'm just getting back into it with this game.
I used to go to I used to play professionally, or not. I guess I never
Ooh.
played I played with a team, but only a couple times, and I went to regional tournaments down in Houston. I also used to play the online duel games like Yu-Gi-Oh Pro and some others. So this is very similar to Yu-Gi-Oh Pro, where they've established the official rules of all the cards in the game. So if you and a buddy are having friends like figure don't know what a rule is for a card, and you're like, oh hey, we'll try it in this game, that's oh cool, that's how it works, neat, this is how we'll play it from now on. That's a good solid foundation to go on.
Or teach you how cards work, because I had no idea how Pendulum or Synchros or Xyz monsters work until this game.
This game is the one that taught me how that works when I first originally got it.
Yeah.
And I'm still figuring out links now.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
always more stuff to learn.
I figured out some things about links, like the arrows. Like they've updated the rules for Yu-Gi-Oh to limit the shenanigans with the extra deck, which is probably necessary.
But you can still work around it and get new shenanigans.
That's what the links are for. Like where the arrows point, that's where you can summon additional extra deck people.
Yeah. I actually stopped playing when Links came out because I think it was prior to Links coming. So, how Yu-Gi-Oh works is cards always come out in Japan first, 7 or 8 months ahead of time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they come out, they get launched, and then they go on to Yu-Gi-Oh Pro, and then all of the notable Yugi tubers, as they call them.
Go!
Yeah, they call them Yugi tubers.
Oh man.
They go online and they show all the crazy combos and everything that can be done with them, and that's the bulk of their channels, and it's really interesting. They got there's an old Yugi tuber called Asian Eyes White Dragon,
Of course.
and he's got a Beaver Warrior video where he goes over to 2.8 million attack and breaks the game.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell Bradley this. I hope he's not listening.
So once Links started to come out, Konami was like, hey, we're introducing Links as a way to try to slow the game down. And they introduced that so you could only have one fusion, XYZ, or synchro monster out at a time now, unless they were linked to something. And then they changed up the way the pendulums worked as well. So how pendulums used to work is you would have monsters that are also spell cards, and then you'd have pendulum zones as well as your 5 spell and trap card zones.
Mm-hmm.
But now the pendulum zones are a part of the spell and trap card zones.
That's
so
a really subtle but good change.
that's great.
It's huge.
That's the way pendulum should have been during their hype, is a really good trade-off, because XYZs and synchros have always had their trade-offs with everything. Like synchro this monster when it's sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon, special summon another tuner, and things like that. But
Yeah, there's
Link,
synergies.
yeah, I feel like links are really when power creep got way out of control. Like, there's been a lot of out of control things in the time. Like,
So, I have this memory of me walking home with you one time, from work, and for some reason I was like, "Hey Tyler, you should play Duel Links because I've been playing that." This was like a year or two ago, and you're like, "Nah, man, XYZ's ruined the game." So I feel like, is it not like a knee jerk reaction to just think that stuff is making stuff go out of control until like countermeasures are found?
I don't think I ever said XYZ's ruined the game. I think I said Links ruined the game at that time because they were
Links
out.
weren't out at that time.
Yeah, they were. Links have been out since like 2017.
This might have been 27. That's when we graduated.
That's when I was complaining about it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that when I relive my memories. Right. Anyways,
I liked XYZs because they were at least interesting to play with. I mean, like, there were some cards like Shockmaster that were like nobody can play. Like, have fun.
I think they're really cool. I like all the summoning ways. Granted, I'm not like an expert or anything. Like, I don't know how to build a one-turn kill deck, but
what happened with Links though is it ruined all the other extra card like capabilities. So like, you have all these Link cards being like, you used to be able to spam XYZs, then you used to be able to spam synchros, then pendulums, but now it's only Links, and they have all these great decks. Like, there's a deck called like DDD, and they literally have fusions, synchros, pendulums, pendulum synchros, XYZs, pendulum XYZ monsters.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's great, but you can't do any of that, and you can't like use this deck because of Links. And there are obviously decks that have incorporated Links into these, and it's like strategic, but that's for like the professional players. Like, I want to sit down with Joe and Willer and play some kitchen table Yu-Gi-Oh,
See, I don't like that. That's Tyler talking me into a bullying situation where on turn 1 he's gonna have 5 synchro monsters and be laughing at me. So
I have never done this. I would like to say that the meanest thing I do is deck my opponent out with Soul Absorbing Bone Tower,
or whatever you did to me last night. Wait a second.
Always trap tricks, man. That's nothing.
Yeah. Do Yu-Gi-Oh.
Just get skill drain, Willer. Skill drain. Just
actually,
yeah. Skill drain.
Who has skill drain? I need that.
Joe has. I don't know.
Joe's not a pack. You said it was
Joe Pack.
Joe Pack. Okay, I'll do it.
It's in one of the original Yu-Gi-Ohs because I remember unlocking it.
Oh, you said Grandpa. Grandpa has it.
I think he has it in like a card pack, or it might be in either Strings or Odeon that has it.
That seems like an Odeon thing.
Yeah, it is an Odeon. It is Odeon because he's all traps.
All traps all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think this is a great game to pick up and play with your friends. If you like card games,
yeah,
you're not gonna hurt yourself by picking this up.
Oh no, absolutely not. Like, it's great because like the Yu-Gi-Oh community has such a great like database center for everything that it's just like, I want to make a Dark Magician deck. Here are all cards that like relate Dark Magician. Go at it.
The game has that. That's a good thing to bring up about the game. You can press R on a card, and it'll just tell you all its adjacent cards with synergies and stuff. That's helpful. But also, you can go on YouTube and just search up blank deck, and you're gonna find these professional-ass decks, and this game somehow has every single card. So just have fun.
Yeah. All that's really interesting, but I activate Dark Hole and you all die.
To the Shadow Realm.
The only downside I will say is not getting to play with your friends with the newly updated ban lists. That's the biggest thing, because like, they're totally harmless cards. Like, Elemental Hero Stratos is at 2 now in the official game, but you can't play with them in Yu-Gi-Oh because as easy as it would be to send out a patch to say these cards can be used, or to even make a game mode where it doesn't count any of the cards like they have in the single player, like, you can use banned cards in single player and they don't care. Like, why can't I with my friends?
Yeah,
maybe one day.
That's the biggest downside of this.
Yeah, I really also wish there was more like game modes, like we could do like a 2v2 game or something like that, but it's just, I don't know. That's one thing.
Get these magic rules out of here. Yu-Gi-Oh isn't good enough for that.
What are you talking about? Labyrinth duel, man. You gotta go through the labyrinth. Where's my fucking
Jesus.
Dungeon Dice monsters?
That would
Aw,
be
man.
nuts if this had a side mode of Dungeons Dice Monsters.
Let's get our own Dungeon Dice monsters. We'll make it. We'll make it happen.
It's
God,
on,
I would
I
love-
play the crap out of it on the Game Boy Advance. It's a game.
Tyler, let's make Dungeon Dice monsters. We'll call it Dice Dungeon monsters.
Cave cube creatures.
Well,
Cave cube creatures.
Cave Cube CCC.
CCC.
We'll see.
Call me
Yeah.
Duke Devlin or Kook Kevlin.
Me and my brothers had the actual physical Dungeon Dice monsters, but I don't think we ever actually played it. We just used the figures for playing with other action figures.
Same.
Classic. All right.
All right.
I think that's good for Yu-Gi-Oh. Hey Bradley, you and I, and a little bit of Tyler.
I'm
Oh,
on chapter 5.
Okay, we're in there.
boy.
We've been playing a little new mobile game called Pokemon Masters.
Ooh, Pokemon!
to preface this, I beat the main campaign on the third day. And, this game is... I love this fucking game. It's 5 out of 5 for me.
It's
I
a charming game for
I
sure.
probably like it more than most people.
Yeah, I feel like this game got a bad rap when it came out because people were like, "Oh man, this is so aggressively monetized." But then me, as an intellectual who has played many time-wasting, money-wasting gacha games, scoffed at them because it was very standard stuff, which doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's okay, but also like you get a ton of free stuff and you don't have to spend money. Like,
Yeah, it's like you're only going to be spending money if you're
if you
impatient.
really want
I
to.
guess.
Yeah.
I feel like I have the least experience with gacha games. So my opinion of it is just I'm aware of microtransactions in games and I'm not surprised at all, but I think the entire joke, I'm like, what is gacha? Oh, gotcha. You paid for
Yeah.
gems? Hey, gotcha. You could have waited another day for that.
Actually, it comes from the term gachapon, which are Japanese ball machines.
Wow, I was about to say that, but then Bradley did it in this demeaning voice that really speaks to who I really am.
He got me with the actually.
He got me with the gotcha. Gotcha games are games where you get your gambling units from it's premium currency that you can buy, but all these games give it to you for free for clearing stuff or just logging in every day. So this game basically, it's a Pokemon game on your phone where you get to play as groups of pairs of iconic trainers from the video games, and they're like signature Pokemon, and you get to make groups of 3 of them. So what's really nice about this is that you get to actually the game is basically parts visual novel, parts battling, where you're just talking to the Pokemon trainers, way more dialogue than you would in an actual Pokemon game. And as a result, you get to appreciate them all a little bit more, because one thing Pokemon trainers in the video games I've always had were one, they have fire designs, they all look super cool.
Oh yeah.
And 2, even the ones that don't get to talk much, just because of their design and just a few lines of dialogue and just how the trainers around them talk about them, you're like, hey, you seem like a likable person. I wish you got to get more dialogue in this game. Well, Pokemon Masters covers that for you.
It got that.
And the dialogue itself is just very charming, I think.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
got some good memes thrown in there too.
They did.
And
Is that hit or miss picture for real?
Yeah, that's real.
Oh
I
my
did that the
God.
other day, and I was like,
Spicy.
I guess they're not missing with the memes in this.
And man, it's also really interesting because even some of the not even the main Pokemon characters, but some of the background characters like Ace trainers and stuff, this just astounded me. So first of all, I already thought this was cool where in one of the missions there was a trio where it's these 2 Ace trainers and a scientist, and you fight them, and then after the battle the Ace trainers are kind of lovey-dovey and the scientists are hey, I'm here too, I'm on the team too. And I was like, oh, that was fun. But then several chapters later in the main campaign, these 3 showed back up, and it was the same 3. And
And they learned valuable lessons. It was very cute.
Yeah, like God, in the main, I'm a notoriously I notoriously dislike a lot of the cutscenes in the main Pokemon games, which isn't to say I don't like the characters because Pokemon character designs are always just straight fire. This game got me to actually want to watch all the cutscenes because I really like the dialogue.
This is the only gacha game I've ever played, and the only mobile game I've ever played where I actually read through the cutscenes.
This game has way too good of graphics for a mobile game. I just want to say that as well.
Models are good.
It's the
What?
Sun and Moon art style is incredible. Everyone was sleeping on it. I think Sun and Moon has a really good art style, and they ported over a lot of these models and like the designs. It's
They're
got
so
like the same ace
smooth.
trainers. Everyone looks so smooth and huggable and shit. Uh, so one thing about like the ace trainers you were talking about, Bradley, I always felt like the side trainers were always the more charming ones in the main game because you have like youngster Joey and he gets like 2 lines of dialogue, but like
Youngster Joey with his rat-a-tat-a.
and his shorts, but he like defines his whole trainer archetype and like there's several of that trainer and like you kind of build an archetype for that trainer. So that's always been fun, but it's really nice just also seeing that archetype go over through this game and get more expanded on, like the beauties and the swimmers and the hikers and stuff like that. But then
And
you do you remember in Platinum when you're going through, I think it's the mountain before you go fight the legendaries. There's a trainer who's doing double battles with you, if I remember this correctly. She's in this game, and I got her, and I was like, "Who is this?" And then I looked it up. I was like, "That is such a good poll." Because of course those are like notable. They're all named trainers that you don't ever get to fight against, but they're like in double battles with you. So I thought that was really interesting too.
yeah, some of the characters you can get, I was like, oh wow, they're in this game, which is a good thing.
They have a nice assortment of gym leaders as well with like casual characters you encounter. And it also like has some like certain insights to each of these characters like you may not have known before. That are just not like you know them if you go on like the Pokemon wiki and where like it's like or Bulbapedia where it's like the source of all information, but you're like, oh, I never knew this main character that I played as in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire wanted to take over the gym for his dad when he grew up.
Yeah, it's stuff that you would get like in the mangas or something like that, but they all condensed it into this game. Like they made the main character, maybe it's from the manga, but like the main character from Black and White 2, the girl, she's like an actress as well as a battler because that was a little mini game in Black and White. So I was like, oh, that is a really fun way to incorporate that.
Yeah, it's like every Pokemon character in a history is just like getting their character like totally defined by this game.
Speaking of, I like the main party in the storyline. It's not just your Gen 1ers. You get like hot picks like Price and
Yeah.
Flannery and Barry.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
I thought it was
awesome.
gonna be like, oh, I'm going on an adventure with Blue and Red, but like Rosa and Flannery and Price, like holy shit.
Also, can we talk about Brock's super move?
Oh, he does that pose that he's in the original games,
Yeah,
and he's
it's
also
awesome.
naked.
Yeah,
That's
his
cool.
shirt, he just flexes on everybody and his shirt rips straight off.
Brock is fucking rad in this game. He's so
It's a wonder
cool.
Brock was single so long. Well, actually, you know, it's not.
Well, this is objectively a different Brock because he has more character traits than just being horny. In fact, when you go to Erica's gym, like he gets accused for being horny, and he's like, "No, I've never lusted before."
I am not horny.
Yeah, he's like anti-normal Brock in this game. He's like, I'm pure.
He's the game Brock, but expanded on. I guess we should talk a little bit about the gameplay as well, because
Yeah,
Should we?
guys, I love the gameplay. Like, holy shit, I love the gameplay. I will go. I have gone from getting totally thrashed to completely dominating just by changing like one Pokemon out from my comp. I love it. I love that it has a lot of elements from normal Pokemon gameplay, but it's also like more, I guess, like what would you call it, actiony? Because
it's what they did is they took Pokemon gameplay, but they converted into a team active battle system. So kind of like active battles from Final Fantasy 7
One
and
Piece
6.
Treasure Cruise.
No, not at all like that. Uh, but the way it works is like you fill up a bar as you're battling, and you get to do moves based on how much you filled up. And there's some strategy to like, oh, should I save up for this move? When's the right time to use the support move? Which passives do my Pokemon get? Which take a while to unlock, but they're all really useful. Uh, Overall, I think if Bradley is like at the height of loving the gameplay, and Tyler is at the most pessimistic, I am in the middle, more leaning towards Bradley, where I see the potential there with strategy making, but also Bradley struggled against this boss really hard, and then he had to like plan around it, and he got to strategize around it, and then he cleared it with strategy and brains. I was like, that's super cool, right? But when I fought the same boss, I just leveled up super effective Pokemon to 40, 45-ish, somewhere in that range, and then I just beat him first try by just using the moves at the right time.
Oh my god, my Pokemon are supposed to be at 45?
Oh, no, it's like chapter 9.
Oh, okay. I
No,
was like, oh my
no,
gosh.
you're good, you're good. But, I mean, if you do want to level them up, you can just go grind the level up thing infinitely, because there's no stamina in this game, which is an interesting maneuver. But basically, that is to say that it's still an RPG where you can do it with strategy if you want, but you can also just grind if you want. Now, I say that, but knowing how these games work, there will be content where it's like, you're going to have to both grind and strategize, because, like, oh, I do all this weird gimmicky shit, and you need these specific units to clear it. Which I look forward to that kind of stuff. But it's all to say that the gameplay, I think, people are too hard on it on the internet. It's still... There's some strategizing to be made there, and it's like overall on a core system, it's like one of the most fun games I've played on my phone gameplay wise.
I won't say it's the most strategic gacha game, because I obviously haven't played every gacha game, but I've definitely played way more mindless ones than this.
For sure. Plus, it has the team building aspect, which is always like my favorite part of these games.
Yeah, and team building with the fire Pokemon characters, no less.
That helps. That really gives it a little oomph, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right. To close out the segment, who are the favorite people you've got so far?
As far as like using them in battle, Will and Zatu, because Zatu is OP as shit, and I just love destroying everyone with him. Character-wise, I love Whitney very much. I love her.
Oh, I didn't like in the Pokemon Center, you get to talk to all the characters you've unlocked.
Oh, talking to them wise, probably also Whitney.
Yeah, no, I'm just bringing that up as well. Also, each character gets a little story cutscene about them, and I hope they add more for each character as the game goes on, because they're really cute. You do get to date Brock, and it's lovely. For me, I got Kahili, who is the Gen 7 Elite Four flying girl. She's the the golf girl. She's the best. And Marlon, who is the water gym leader from Black and White 2. He looks rad. Those are my special boys. Gameplay-wise, though, Roxanne is she's carrying me in some of these fights.
I guess I don't have a carry or anybody yet. My favorite so far that I've gotten was Wickstrom.
Ooh.
And his Aegislash. I'm not actually...
Is he the steel guy from Gen 6?
I think so, yeah. And that's like the one I played the least.
Sounds like it.
But Aegislash has his King Shield and like offensive form and defensive form in this game. Which is really cool that they incorporated that.
That is interesting, actually, yeah. That's a really unique system in the games themselves already.
Mm-hmm. After that, it's going to be Rosa and Chris. Because Snivy and Feraligatr are really both, or Snivy and Totodile.
You got Chris, gold, basically?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so one thing that ruined this game for me initially, but I didn't have to do it all, was, I'm going to save up for a multi because you get a guaranteed 5-star. But then I found out that that's only for paid gems. So if you're playing this after this recommendation, every time you get 300 gems, just get a new character. It lets you do more content because you'll get more elements and characters. So just do them all. Don't save
there's
up.
also a possibility you could save up your gems for events like right now, where
blue is active.
Yeah, so save up all your gems, and then a new character comes out, and then you can try to get them.
Right, I think after a certain point, like, you get enough characters where it's like, okay, I got enough where I'm gonna get too many duplicates now. I should probably just save up. That's
Yeah, you
generally
just
how
sort
these
of-
things work.
You know what? Since you mentioned that, I'm gonna do a live getting in character right now.
Oh shit!
while
Let's
we're
see
here.
who Tyler.
Sponsored by Nintendo.
Let's see who Tyler's gonna get.
I hear like I went on the wiki and I saw a lot of people were like looking at Dusclops.
Who has Dusclops?
I don't
Is it
know.
Karen?
No, it's the Jin. It's the Sun and Moon girl, the Ghost girl, right?
Yeah, it's the Elite Four Ghost Girl.
Oh no! I'm an idiot. No,
Ah.
it's the Jin 3 girl, the Hawaiian-looking girl.
Yeah.
So this is something to mention. There is no duplicate protection.
There is not. When you get a
but-
duplicate, you can use their super earlier.
Yes, they do upgrade the current versions of themselves.
So it's safe to say that Tyler got a duplicate.
I did. I got Janine and Ariados.
Oh,
Hey.
Janine is cool though.
He's cool.
She does. It's got cross poison and critical hit rate up.
She
which
does
is
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a fun game. My only negative is that I wanted the setting for like a normal RPG on the Switch as well, because I just love like the idea of going on a journey and fighting all the characters that you know and love. But you know what? This is a good second to that idea, and it's very fun and very portable.
I like this game. That's all I gotta say. I really like it.
I don't think the Pokemon Company wasted their time making this game. It's pretty solid. Pretty good.
Do you know about their other mobile games? Just on a quick subject, because I know of two more.
Oh, Nintendo's mobile games?
No, Pokemon in specific.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
I didn't know they had any.
They have Pokemon Shuffle, that is a match 3 game. That is also kind of like it's a gacha before the time of normal gacha, so it's got a little bit outdated stuff.
Candy Crush-esque?
No, because by bringing certain Pokemon, so if you have 4 Pokemon, you bring them into the game, and that's what your little movable pieces are. It's those 4 Pokemon. But then there's also like if you're fighting Xatu, you might also have some Xatu heads to move around as well, which kind of breaks up your combos because that's more complexity that you have to play around. Makes sense. But basically, like, if you match 5 Kangaskhan, you can Mega Evolve it and do extra damage, or if you match 5 Pikachu, you can paralyze your opponent. Pretty fun, especially if you like match 3 games. Their other game is Pokemon Duel, which is... There used to be a Pokemon little mini board game called Pokemon Duel, and they basically turned that into a mobile game. It's a lot more strategy focused than Pokemon Masters is. It's pretty fun as well, but I think this is easily the best of the 3.
I'm really proud that all of us know that Niantic makes Pokemon Go, and not the Pokemon Company.
Shit, Pokemon Go exists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that is not the same, you know.
Oh, Pokemon Company, did they even make this, or was this?
No, that's Niantic Labs. I mean, Pokemon
I'm talking about
Company is a part of
Masters.
it.
Well, it was made by a company. Their
Dyna?
splash screen comes up DNA, I think.
Yeah. I forgot about Go. Go exists.
Okay, well then Pokemon Go exists.
Tyler is more into Go than I.
Bradley and I both played Go for a hot minute.
Yeah, we played it for a while. I haven't
Got it.
lately. I liked playing it more in College Station because I think there's just
Ooh, big leaks.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun when you have a commute to walk. Like, if I definitely had a commute to work again, I'd probably play it. But since I don't, nah, it really dies out for me.
Pokemon on your
Yeah.
phone.
Hello.
Hey, so me and Joe want to do a quick first thoughts on a Switch game that released recently called
Okay,
Astral
Jake.
Chains.
Yeah.
It's Platinum's new game, exclusive to the Switch. Joe, how you liking this game?
Well, I've only really played the first level tutorial because if you listened previously, we were talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, and that kind of like consumed my gaming time
Same,
because I was like,
honestly.
I need to get this deck. But I played the tutorial. I'm going through the rest of the tutorial, and right now, like looking at it, it looks like it's pretty solid in terms. It's not like it's very much like a fighting game. I don't know how much on terms of Devil May Cry it might be like that, but
Well, it's a character
I've been-
action game like Devil May Cry, but it's
Yeah.
doing a lot of its own things.
yeah. It's co-op, which is super cool.
Wait, what? Oh, right. But
Yeah.
I heard the co-op is weird. Because that's a lot
Why?
on the screen. Does it split the screen or what?
No, you take over as the person's legion.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So
That also makes
what
sense.
Astral Chains is about is you're a cop, and you have to fight interdimensional beings, and you have a thing called a legion. That I'm not exactly 100% sure what it is, but it allows you to see these astral beings and take them down.
In other words, you have something that stands by you, so we call it the stand.
Yeah.
Basically, if you know anything about JoJo's, this is Stand Cops, the video game, and it's more and more real when you realize that people who don't have stands can't see your stand, and a stand can only be defeated by a stand.
Except like, there's no crazy things like a fly or.
No, they're just cool looking beasts.
Yeah.
So I mean, from what I've gathered from the story, and a legion is basically just a chimera that you tamed.
Yeah, that's what I could tell from the opening scene.
But it's a platinum game, so unless it's Nier Automata, you don't have to pay attention to the story that much, because what you're in there for really is goofy characters and big fucking action, and this game's got that pretty good.
Although I am getting some really solid like Neon Genesis vibes from this game.
Yeah, well, the first like color you unlock is EVA Unit 1 for your Legion, so there you go.
That's true.
So the way this works, it's an action game where you can control your Legion, and it's tied to you through a chain. So using that chain, you can move them around as you're fighting. As a result of having to control two kind of bodies, your combo system is really simplified. You just press one button to attack. But what they do to compensate for that, like, you're not going to get your crazy Devil May Cry action, but you are going to get a lot of context-sensitive maneuvers, like perfect dodges into attacks, or doing chain attacks into other chain attacks. But there's also moving your Legion around, where you can wrap it around enemies to chain them up, or you can equip abilities to them, which let them do like special attacks as well. So the way you're moving around the field and the way you're controlling your Legion and the way you're fighting makes it a really solid and good action game already.
Yeah.
Joe, when you finish mission 2, get back to me, because I feel like that's when the game really starts.
Yeah, I imagine. The first it does the thing that all Japanese games do, and that's have a really long intro sequence, and it drives me up a wall sometimes.
But starting on the bike was pretty fucking good, though, I will say.
I mean, but that's not the game, though.
Welcome to Platinum Games, where they make a whole new game system just for a one-off.
Yeah.
Those guys are crazy.
Yeah.
I'm only on mission 3. By the way, each mission is very long. There's a lot of steps.
I was surprised at how long the first one was. I was like, holy moly.
Yeah. Like, mission 2 and 3 are massive. Have you done any detective work?
No, I'm still at the base.
Okay. You're about to go into the detective work tutorial. The detective work's really fun. Some people might think it's too long, but I think you can skip most of it if you don't want to get points. Yeah. But I want to get points.
Yeah, there's also a lot of like RPG mechanics that I could see, like you have to collect equipment and change gears and stuff like that.
You're about to unlock skill trees for your legions, which those are fun. Yeah, after mission 3, like, also combat gets way crazier and like just more fun. I'm really liking this game. I probably won't finish it in the upcoming week, but maybe by
I will be busy.
Yeah. I'll finish it in a couple weeks, and we'll get back to this. But those are my first impressions on Astral Chain.
Astral Chain rhymes with asshole pain. That is all.
Hey Bradley, I'll first of all shut up. Second of all, I'll bring it over so you can take a look, because like,
I want to see what it looks like.
It looks really cool. Joe had another thing to say.
I was gonna say that I've been primarily playing on handheld, just because that's how my setup is currently. And it runs pretty well on handheld.
Okay, I haven't tried yet because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Are you playing on normal difficulty or platinum standard?
Platinum standard, I think.
So, a game's really fun to play, except against one enemy, which you're about to fight. It's like a big gorilla thing, and it is anti-fun. So, have fun.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Bradley.
That's me.
Time to what was this called?
Don't give it up, Bradley.
There you go. Unfortunately,
the official name.
Bradley, why don't you talk to us about the Supersonic Duck Squad in One Piece?
Yes, this week in One Piece, we are kind of starting the end game of Alabasta. There's obviously still a lot to go, but made some progress. This week we're starting on chapter 181, the Supersonic Duck Quiz. Just kind of general overview of the approach to this week. I took much less notes than I normally would, just because compared to the first half of Alabasta, this is a lot more action and there's a lot less subtextual things going on here.
Makes sense.
But that doesn't change the fact that it's still One Piece and it's still really good.
It's good action.
Yeah, so like we're probably going to be taking a lot more things at face value. There's probably a lot less regurgitating of several pages of notes, but it's still going to be really good. But yeah, we're starting on chapter 181, Supersonic Duck Quiz. The previous week I kind of left off here because I got the vibe that the big climactic final battle of Alabasta, the rebellion, is about to start, and I wasn't necessarily wrong. So,
But
yeah, I guess we're just gonna kind of run into it. It picks off right where we left off, where the rebel forces are approaching Alubarna. Baroque Works top agents are like, "Well, we're here. The rebels are about to be here. Straw Hats are approaching." And we see the Straw Hats coming in on the Supersonic Duck Squad, whom I love, and Oda. Oda in one of the question corners like gave us all their names, and all their names are so fitting for what they look like.
Of course.
He said that he made the names when he made all the ducks, but he left it out just because he thinks it would be confusing for someone to have to immediately learn 6 new names for ducks they might not see a whole lot.
Wow, I will say Oda has changed his mindset in future One Piece.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, he'll introduce 17 ducks and you gotta know them all.
All right.
all very important at the same time.
But man,
Motherfucker.
like, we really are just like getting right into it. The Straw Hats run in, and then we get to see Mr. Four. Like, this is the first time we've seen him do action. He pulls out a fucking bazooka and he shoots a baseball that lazily plops down on the ground a little bit, and everyone's like, "Don't go near it," which is a really good comical beat. But you're also like, man, if they got near that baseball, they probably would have fucking died. Even though I don't know what it does at this point.
It plays ball, bro.
Yeah, and so the Straw Hats kind of have this strategy where they're going to split up into 3 groups, which I think is a pretty good call. The Baroque Works agents don't know which group has Vivi. Spoiler alert, she wasn't in any of those 3 groups. She kind of ran off by herself to intercept the rebel forces. And we've talked about this several times before, where going into an arc, Oda is really good at finding ways to split up the main characters into the battles he wants to do. Like, maybe Luffy separated from the crew because he did something dumb, or maybe Sanji ran off this way because he wanted to get something that only Sanji would want. Oda's usually really good at being able to find good in-universe reasons to make the matchups that he wants. And he did it here because he split them up because it was an actually good plan to split up their groups so the enemy wouldn't know where Vivi is. And then not only that, the particular matchups that he created were kind of perfect, like Zolo going up against Mr. One, or Sanji going up against Bon Clay, which we'll talk about those when we get to them.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the way Oda sets battles up.
This was another good organic way to split up the crew.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the setup of chapter 181. We're just kind of like, hey, this is what we're about to do. We split them up. They're gonna have these individual fights, and then the next chapter is like one of the hardest my stomach dropped in One Piece so far.
Nice.
This Vivi gets in front of the rebels. There's no one in her way. It's just her and them. And this is what they've been working for the past, I don't know how many volumes, is to get Vivi to the rebels.
In her mind, the whole, like, if they could get her there, she could fix everything.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, they actually did it. There's no Baroque agent. There's like no Baroque Works agents standing here trying to stop her. It's just her and the rebels. Koza is riding towards her. And then the new guy who I consider the main villain, an ultimate scumbag of One Piece, fires a cannon, which creates a cloud so the rebels can't see Vivi.
Man, I can't wait till you see that guy come back later. He's so strong later.
I can't wait for that guy to...
Such a villain.
Oh, I hate this motherfucker. Like, that just really dropped my heart because we've been operating for the past several volumes. We've been operating under the assumption that if Koza and Vivi are able to meet before he gets to the capital, we win. Like, that is our win condition. And it was just totally taken from us here.
Well, he's also a Baroque Works member, so he's just doing a good job, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a good
Good asshole.
Kind of like Satan's good at being Satan.
You're right.
But yeah, this just like really killed me. And then Vivi almost gets trampled by the rebel forces, and Karoo saves her.
That is such a heartbreaking panel. Oh.
Yeah, like God bless Karoo, man. And you just kind of have to wonder, like, where are we gonna go from here? And actually, we know where we're gonna go. Like, we're gonna have this big battle that Vivi didn't want to happen. She wanted to prevent bloodshed, but it's already happening now. Like, they're already in the city, and they're already about to fight. So I'm kind of flipping through chronologically as I do. Sanji, in quotation marks, rides up on Vivi, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get out of here." And
You mean Usopp?
Yeah. And he's like, "We need to get out of here, leave that bird." And of course he says that bird, and she's like, "Wait a fucking second."
There's something interesting here too, where he shows her the arm mark, which we establish is how they would find each other.
Or yeah, like he holds up the armband. And it was funny because for a split second when I saw this panel, I forgot about the armband. So he's like, "Are you doubting me? Look." And I thought he was like showing her his muscles, and I'm like, maybe this is Usopp.
What do you think of this? Like, the armband, that is how they know each other, but Vivi can look at it and say, "Oh, that's not him," conclusively. So what does that?
Well, I think it was clear from him saying that bird, because Usopp and Karoo, like I feel like Karoo has actually like had a closer relationship with Sanji compared to like the other, not Sanji, goddammit. I feel like out of all the members of the Straw Hats, Usopp is probably the one Karoo had the closest relationship with. Like, we've actually seen them interacting a lot in the background.
And the Little Garden, like, the fighting party was Luffy, Karoo, and Usopp.
Yeah, the fight against Mr. 3. So, like, I think just the fact that this Usopp said that bird was enough for Vivi to be like, okay, this is clearly not Usopp. That being said, a few pages later, and I'm skipping a few pages here, but I'm just to kind of, since this is relevant. A few pages later, in I think the next chapter, we get the whole thing with Zoro saying like, "Hey, we should put a mark under our like armbands, so that way even if someone has an armband, we can tell."
Right.
I don't know if we needed this, because like I don't know, she didn't even look under his armband. Like, why is this a thing?
Well, no, the idea is that the actual signal isn't the armband, it's the X.
Okay.
Right.
So by him not showing the X, she's like, "Oh, he's using the surface level symbol."
Okay. Even then, I think just him saying that bird, like on a character level, I think would have. I think that's the more potent part of this.
It was definitely a double.
Yeah. You gotta be, I guess, as safe as possible. Of course, she is like, this is not Usopp. Bon Clay is like, okay, well, I'm just gonna fucking kill you now. So, also, we started a new mini arc between chapters with Hachi, the
Yeah.
Octopus Man. So, I wonder what's gonna happen to him.
Big things.
Looks like he's in Atlantica from Little Mermaid. So yeah, beginning of this chapter, we get the reveal about like the actual signal. So that explains that. And then we get like a chapter where Karoo is like busting his ass, man, and to save Vivi. And the last time, like, this really put me in the mindset of when Luffy was climbing the mountain at Drum Island, when like Karoo is just really busting his ass to get Vivi up there, because he's really at his limit. Like, he got trampled by like thousands of rebels, and he just had to save Vivi from Bon Clay.
His
And,
face when he's climbing just looks so fucked up.
oh yeah, so someone give this duck a medal.
I remember last time, if I recall correctly, you said some harsh words about Karoo and the ducks. You were defending the Jugongs, and you might have said some harmful words to the ducks. I'm just saying.
I don't remember any of this.
I will.
I think you're making stuff up.
No, it was your hypothetical. I will show you later.
Oh no! All I did was ask a question. I think it was Joe was the one who.
Someone shat on these ducks, and they have some answering to do.
All I did was ask a question. But yeah, this chapter is really like Karoo's moment to shine, saving Vivi. And then the other members of the Duck Squadron come in and kind of help with the cleanup. And then we finally get the setup for Sanji versus Bon Clay. And we get the big reveal that Mr. Prince was Sanji the whole time.
What?
No way.
Nani?
I didn't see it coming. It is, but you know, looking back, I think the groundwork was there that someone could have conceivably seen it coming. They both have black pants, so
I think Oda jumped the shark here. I don't know.
yeah, it is kind of a ass pulley reveal, if you ask me. But you know, it's One Piece, so it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, we'll never get any more character development for Sanji again.
Or Mr. Prince, because he's dead.
Yeah. And then in the same chapter, we also set up Usopp and Chopper. Team name Usoppers? No?
Is it Brusop?
Yeah, we set them up against Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas.
I love this fight.
This is the best. This fight is fantastic.
So ready for Miss Merry Christmas to get her ass beat.
you hate her so much.
I hate this woman.
You found out what the baseball does.
Oh yeah, they are time bombs that are like as heavy as cannonballs. And he can just whack these things around willy-nilly. It's very interesting. And also, he has a dog bazooka.
Right.
Dog bazooka.
Let's not gloss over this.
No, this is actually really important to talk about. The dog bazooka is crucial.
Yeah, we learned that inanimate objects can receive the powers of a devil fruit.
What is the wording they used in Viz? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I don't know where they actually explain.
We'll get to it. They don't talk about it immediately.
Oh, here it is. Mr. Merry Christmas says, on the Grand Line, even inanimate objects can eat devil fruits.
Okay, they're using the word eat. Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know.
I've never taken this eat literally, of course.
I just imagined it as like he crammed a devil fruit down the barrel of his gun to see if it would work, and it worked. That's how I picture it.
Probably only works with objects that have orifices.
Yeah,
no,
you know.
No.
Orifices, you say?
Well, whatever. There's more to this story.
Yeah. So the next big chapter, or rather the chapter we're on now, is mostly just kind of the big fight between Usopp and Chopper, which Usopp does his regular strategy of when he's in danger, he kind of runs away, and then he comes back with like a really clutch move and then it either works or doesn't, and then he runs away and then comes back with like an even more clutch move. It's kind of his trademark strategy.
What do you think of the synergy between Miss Merry Christmas's mole fruit and just Mr. Ford being a big boy?
It's kind of perfect, right? Because wherever he shoots this ball, she's gonna be able to be like on the receiving end of it, and also I couldn't tell if like her power's able to give him some maneuverability, like between him and his dog.
It
Like,
seems like he can whack-a-mole a little bit through the
'cause,
holes.
like, I think his dog will like go through the tunnels, and then it can like shoot the ball at him, and then he'll hit it. So I think they really do have some synergy here.
It's Chopper is just incredibly clutch, just as Usopp is doing his pussy boy phase.
Yeah. Also, I love the whole deal where Miss Merry Christmas reveals that she can turn into a mole, but before she actually does, they're like, "Oh my God, she totally is a mole woman." This is just a really funny fight. But man, yeah, Mr. Four's ability, I was like, "Holy shit, this is really cool."
I like Chopper shrinking to avoid the bomb. That's just a really logical use of his powers.
Yeah, because this is, I guess, like the second time we've really seen him fight, and so we're getting to see him like use it in some clever ways. Usopp bringing out his 5-ton hammer,
This is such a good scene.
really fucking cool, and the fact that it actually seemed to work for a few pages, I was like, is Usopp dreaming, and then like it's gonna go away, and then it's gonna turn out that he was knocked out the whole time? Because this is totally like a story that Usopp would tell someone to dream up. Like, I pulled out my 5-ton hammer and I swung it and broke his fucking face. I totally thought he was dreaming.
Oh man!
And it kept going, and I was like, holy shit, he totally is swinging around this hammer.
And he swings it like a whack-a-mole, so it's like, holy shit, he's swinging it very fast.
Yeah, and
Usopp superpower.
it's
Yeah.
also just great because this also, like, Oda probably is like, oh, well, if I have someone who's a mole, then I need to give someone a hammer, and they're gonna play whack-a-mole, right?
Obviously.
And then we get the reveal that, you know, it was like a trick to buy time. It was a collapsible hammer, which totally makes sense, and I love the little diagram of the hammer.
Yeah, pretty good.
It's not actually 5 tons. It's 4.4 pounds. So I guess it maybe slightly made Mr. Four's head hurt.
That being said, they are frying pans, so like that's not exactly
Yeah,
you know.
we've seen what Princess Peach can do with a frying pan. So
Yeah, but she's not fighting Mr. 4 with this 1,000 HP.
you're right.
There's just like, it goes without saying, but there's just some phenomenal art. Like
Yeah.
this shot of Miss Merry Christmas just slashing Usopp's face.
There's a lot of good back and forths and trades in this fight. I kind of want to skip to. We have this moment where. So Miss Merry Christmas, she grabs Usopp's feet, and her and Mr. Four are gonna do this finisher move, right?
Yeah.
Where. Well, actually, hold on. She's about to do it, but Chopper. Before they actually complete the finisher move, Chopper kind of pulls this thing out where okay, hold on. Let me make sure I didn't skip a few pages here. Okay. Usopp, or no, god damn it. I get so many character names confused this week. Chopper has this plan to counter Mr. Four's dog gun where like he makes it sneeze and he points it in one of the mole holes
Good
and
plan.
it shoots this fire out, and holy shit, that was just such a good idea.
It works too. Like, it's the biggest damage they've done to this point.
Yeah. And then we move on to doing the finisher move, synergy.
This is such a highlight of this fight for me.
Yeah, so Miss Merry Christmas zooms Usopp towards Mr. Four, who does the Mortal Kombat X-ray move on him.
God damn.
This, I won't deny, it looked hype as fuck. that was a cool fucking move. At the same time, even for something as cartoony as One Piece, it felt like a bit of a stretch to me because Usopp took like a several ton metal bat to the face at that speed.
I
And he
like how his nose is a bone.
But later, like he tanked this several ton bat hit to the face, but then later his 4.4 pound hammer is able to totally like annihilate Mr. Four. So I thought it was a little weird. I don't know if you guys had that notion.
Fights in One Piece are battles of will, and Mr. Four has 0 will.
I guess so.
For me, it just works because of just how fucked up Usopp looks. Like, that is the most fucked up I think he's ever looked. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and like it doesn't like this. It's not a huge deal to me because like One Piece is usually more about the how and why the characters are fighting rather than the fight itself for me. Even though the fights are really cool.
This does set a precedent where Usopp can take quite a beating. Like Usopp, he's a little wimp, but like he can. And it kind of started with Kuro because Kuro beat the shit out of him. He takes a hammer to the face in that arc too as well. And even though he can't really move afterwards, he can still like he still struggles to stand up and like try to do something.
So Usopp is officially the tank. I guess this is just kind of like recalibrated my idea of what will and will not kill people in One Piece.
Yeah.
So,
but
I think you're right. I think it is a more character-focused, like, battle of will thing. Like, as long as you have the will to keep fighting, you'll be able to. But if you feel defeated or if you don't have the will, then I guess that's when you lose.
It's also notable that he doesn't really fight after this. Like, it's a lot of Usopp and him just thinking.
Yeah.
But Usopp is doing the maneuvering. Or sorry, not Usopp. Chopper is doing the maneuvering after this fact.
And Chopper's horn boost form looks rad.
It's so cool looking.
So yeah, they kind of do their plan where the finishing move is going to happen again. Usopp jumps out of his shoes. Miss Merry Christmas gets fucked. And then they slingshot the 5-ton hammer at Mr. Four. And they win. And you can't help but think like, holy shit. These two young bucks from the Straw Hats just took down top members of Baroque Works.
But also, they're the weakest of the top members in this fight, so you gotta wonder what's coming up.
I think they have the weakest wills out of all of them.
They're definitely the least intimidating. Also, just the fact that Mr. Four gets the Smash Brothers home run record when he hits Miss Merry Christmas is just very satisfying.
Yeah.
With that, we move into Volume 21. And now that we've kind of finished up that fight, we're going to briefly get a look and see, like, okay, the Rebels are still doing their thing. Vivi's still trying to find a way to stop this. And then we get to move into Sanji versus Bon Clay, which immediately I liked because I was like, oh, we get the two French-speaking, kick-focused characters versus each other.
And there's some good choreography in the fight as well.
It's kind of perfect that these two go up against each other because they're throwing out their moves, and sometimes I can't tell like which move name goes to which character, but I actually like it that way because they're both just like these Frenchy French moves.
Frenchy fucks.
You got the horse.
You got some.
Excuse me, Joe.
That's one of the names. Gigo Charlie Le Horse.
And man, I just like how kind of similar the mood at the start and end of the fight is, where they're kind of looking at each other and they see they have some things in common, and there's both of them kind of feel like they're radiating more excitement than anger going into this fight. And as it ends, they kind of seem to have a level of respect for each other. Obviously, Sanji's like, I have more important things to do than stay here fucking with you, but
yeah, I definitely get what you're saying there.
Yeah, I think it was kind of perfect to have these two go up against each other. So going through, you get some fun moves. Bon Clay tries his strategy of looking as hilarious and weird as possible, and he ends up looking like himself, but with like Sanji's nose.
Usopp's nose.
Or God damn it, how many times have I got to do Sanji and Usopp?
At least 5 more times.
But yeah, he tries to look as funny as possible, and Sanji's like, "You just kind of look like yourself," and Bon Clay's real sad about it. But Bon Clay has other strategies in mind, which we will find out after we cut away to the royal palace, where Vivi has caught up, and she has the plan that what they need to do is destroy the royal palace. And this is just another moment where she is so much like her father, and at first everyone's like, this is the worst idea ever, why would we do this? But Chaka is like, no, she's right, this, everyone's like, oh, the king would never agree to this, but she says something that's like exactly what King Cobra said, where it's like, the people are the kingdom, not the palace, not us. And he thinks back to King Cobra saying that, and he's like, no, this is what the king would want. He's like, we have to do it.
Yeah, it's a really good line.
It really is. So they're gonna do it, and then we cut back to Bon Clay. Okay, here's the thing. Within one panel, we cut from the royal palace to a transfigured Nami stepping on Sanji, which I imagine is just a lot of people's fantasies out there. Like, I saw this and I was like, oh god.
Not in this outfit, or maybe.
Or maybe in this outfit. And then this is another reason why I think this was like the perfect matchup, because I think for any other of the Straw Hats, if he turned into Nami, they would be like, okay, well, I might hesitate a little bit, but you're clearly not Nami, I'm not gonna hit you. But like, I think Sanji is the one who would let that lust get the better of him. He is the one who would like hesitate because he's like, oh my god, she's so hot.
He's the horny one. We can just say it. We can say what it is.
So, I think in every way, this was just like the perfect matchup.
Holy shit! There's this panel here where Mr. Two chops Sanji's hard eyes, and it's like it physically hurts him.
Yep.
More importantly, we have Bon Clay Nami almost stripping down, which like Sanji is like simultaneously in heaven and hell, because every time Bon Clay like teases him, he's just like, oh, hey baby, and then
he need some help,
hey baby, and like, I don't know, it's just so good. And then Bon Clay casually rips off his mascara and throws it as weapons.
I love that.
And I'm just gonna leave it at that, because you can take it for what it is.
The great weapon.
Fortunately, Sanji's able to figure out how to counteract this, or not counteract. He kind of finds the weakness in Bon Clay's strategy, where
the weakness,
the weakness, because Bon Clay can only like fully utilize his "Oh come my way" or "Oh come away." He can only fully utilize this martial art when he's in his real body, which I think actually makes perfect sense, because like, you think about how many man hours it takes perfecting a martial art.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to like muscle memory and being used to your body and being comfortable with the way you're going to move. And if you're in someone else's body, I don't think you'd be able to move as like instinctually as you normally would.
Quite frankly, Nami's big honkers would not allow him to do anything.
Yeah, it's like a counterweight that he normally doesn't have. So I just think it's like a really cool, believable way that I think it's like it's a weakness that makes sense to me. If that makes sense. And then he even finds like other weaknesses where I think as an extension to that, he sees that Bon Clay will transform back when he touches his left hand to his face. And he ends up using it later in the fight to kind of deal the final blow. I guess the only other like big notable move in the fight is Bon Clay's awesome swan shoes,
Awesome.
which are very cool. I think this was actually like chapter wise, it was a shorter fight than the Usopp Chopper fight. But man, I really like this one. So
The finishing blow is iconic to me.
yeah, and I really like the way that Sanji and Bon Clay leave each other.
God, that last barrage is fucking sick. They're just
Oh,
going
yeah.
at it.
It's really cool. So we kind of go back to the palace, and I think they're determined to follow through on Vivi's plan. And then we go to oh, we actually see Sir Crocodile has made it to Alubarna.
Yeah, the boys here.
You're just like, holy shit, we lose. And shortly after the reveal that he's here, we cut away to our last pair of fights, I guess we're doing. We have Zoro versus Mr. One and Nami versus Miss Doublefinger. And you just kind of have to wonder, like, even before we see what their abilities are, you're just like, how the hell are they going to beat these people? Because these are like two of the absolute tippy top Ropeworks agents.
And we saw how strong the other three are, and they were like very tough. And one of them has to fight fucking Nami of all people.
Yeah. And it's so cool because we get this cool panel where Mr. One doesn't attack, but we can't see it clearly. And then this pillar is like split vertically in several places. And you're just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And we learn that he is a human sword. And
He ate the dice fruit. Now, Bradley, I have a fun callback for you.
okay.
Do you remember when they were meeting in the Spiders Cafe? Mr. 2 kicks Mr. 1 out of the building, and it just looks like he's breaking through the wall. But if you go back and reread that chapter, when he's going through the wall, it is a perfect circle, and all the debris behind him is diced.
Dude, that is
So,
really
That was a foreshadowing to his dicing ability.
Oda. He knows how to get me.
Also, you were like, oh, his fingers make a sound effect, which is kind of this fruit is called the super fruit in Japanese, which is the sound of dicing things.
It's nice.
So it was making like a swish super kind of sound, whatever that is.
We get some kind of looks at what he can do to his like arms and hands, and like we see that like he really can like turn any part of his body into a blade, like the underside of his fingers. So, like you just imagine like if he grabs you, it's over.
Oh,
like if he grabs you, it'll just cut whatever he grabbed off. So you can think about that.
No, thank you.
And then as we're setting up Nami versus Miss Doublefinger, we get the kind of flashback of when she's asking, she's kind of how do you call it?
Commissioning.
Commissioning Usopp to make her this weapon, which is a really cool weapon, even before we see it in action, just from the description of it. Like, they'll combine in different ways to do different attacks, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to see what this is going to do. And, like, Nami gets impaled from behind, and not in the way that I want. She gets spiked by Miss Doublefinger.
It sure looks cool, though.
It does look really cool. And Miss Doublefinger, it's a somewhat similar ability to Mr. One's. She can turn any part of her body into spikes.
Yeah, these are really fun fruits.
Unfortunately for her, Nami is now a magician, and she fly out of the climate baton. But clearly that wasn't what she meant to do. She actually meant to shoot flowers out of the end of it.
Right.
Which was also just a ruse.
Every rose has a thorn or something.
Yeah, some shit like that. A lot of the first half of this fight is Nami trying to figure out how to use this weapon, struggling with Usopp's instructions, and kind of doing trial and error with the bubbles to figure out what works and what doesn't.
And Miss Doublefinger is just doing sick ass attacks, like this Gatling attack with the spikes, and just when she buffs up and turns into a ball. Her moves are really cool looking.
Yeah, like her standing on the ceiling and then showing like the cross section of the spikes going into the ceiling was really cool. She does a lot of really fun stuff with spikes. but Nami is able to kind of work out what's going on with the climate baton, and she gets ready to actually fight. And we kind of get some cool experimentation here with the heat bubble, the cool bubble, the thunder ball, and she's just kind of testing the waters. And it's kind of good that this stuff isn't working right now, because it lures Miss Doublefinger into that false sense of security where she's actually kind of letting Nami experiment, because she's like, this is just sad.
This move where she's on her stilettos and she's just like sway walking towards her is so funny looking.
Oh yeah,
man! I think this is my favorite Nami fight to this day. This is a really fun one.
It's really cool because we see like it's really cool because like wind is created like when hot air and cold air collide and stuff like that, and so that's kind of what the climate baton operates on, is making these gusts of wind. And like her doing the cyclone tempo, like it just reminded me of like, I don't know, like Aang from Avatar, like swinging his glider and there's like a huge gust of wind. It just felt really cool and fluid to me.
Yeah. And if you'll remember, Nami has had like, she's had scenes where she really shows her understanding of the weather. As part of her navigation skill, she has shown before her weather-based skills. Yeah. And this is a really cool application of that into combat.
And then we see Nami die.
Yeah, anyways, onto Zoro.
Man, that was that panel really had me scared as shit for a second.
Good fake out. That's a good style of fake out.
She does the Mirage thing, which this is another one of those things where for something that's not a Devil Fruit power, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I didn't care for it a whole lot, but I guess the same thing was done in JoJo's, so if I accept it there, I'll accept it here.
Yeah, you gotta have even more lenience with One Piece fights than JoJo fights, because they don't even try to pretend like they're not goofy fun.
Yeah, One Piece has more Toon Force, even, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, actually, that's a good way to put it.
So yeah, like she gets to do really cool stuff with like wind and the atmosphere, and I think introducing this weapon was a really good way to have Nami be in more fights from here on out,
or at least have good support roles.
Yeah. So it looks like Sanji, Usopp, and Chopper were kind of able to rendezvous after their fights, and they're trying to figure out what the next move is as the rebels are kind of breaking into the intersection of the city to take the palace. Miss All Sunday is using her awesome hands to prevent them from doing this, while Mr. Crocodile, that's not his name, Sir Crocodile.
It's so different.
Mr. Crocodile crucified the king.
Yeah.
He totally got nailed up on the wall. And he asks King Cobra about some things we haven't heard of up till now, but that are totally game changers for the world of One Piece.
Indeed. Let's talk about it.
One of these things being the Pluton, is that how you'd pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like an island destroying weapon, which, holy shit, in the context of One Piece, this, like, whoever has this weapon would actually be like they would be exactly what Crocodile wants to be. They'd be like the strongest military force in the world.
It is a very important part, and I really like how everyone reacts to it, where Vivi has no idea what it is, Robin is just quiet, and then Chaka is just, there.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the people who do know about it are like chilled to the bone of him mentioning it.
True, when I said Chaka is just there, I should have said Chaka is there shitting himself in worry.
Yeah, and then like, I'm not even surprised that a lot of people didn't know about it, because if you had a weapon like that in your possession and you weren't going to use it, you'd want to never mention it because you don't want people to try to kill you and take the weapon.
Yeah. Like
what's happening here. So yeah, we kind of dropped that bomb, no pun intended. Mm-hmm. And we come back to Nami and her fight, and Miss Doublefinger tries to give Nami the kiss of death by turning her lips into a spike, which is just another really cool move.
Don't forget her boobs. The boobs are also spikes.
Oh yeah, you know everything.
That's,
I mean, whose boobs aren't?
most people, but
Only when it's cold. So, we get kind of some more cool climate baton moves, including the sprinkler.
Which this is all very cool setup for the big finale shot.
Yeah, because we have to get moisture in the air, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's why she's doing sprinkler.
And man, it's just like several pages is just like kind of one cool move after another. Nami is doing a lot of these things that aren't necessarily directed at Miss Doublefinger. They're just setting up, and it's clear that she's setting up for something. But I like that it's not obvious what she's setting up for, so there's like really good tension for the reader.
Yeah, it's really good in retrospect, but as you're reading it, you're just as confused.
Because like in a lot of other big plays we've seen, like on like when Karoo and Usopp were setting up for setting Mr. 3 on fire and stuff and like melting all the wax, like it was clear what they were setting up for, which doesn't make it any less cool. But I really like that this is kind of another thing like that where she's clearly setting up for something, but we don't know what yet. So I don't know. I think it's just fun to see. I think it's fun to see that, and it's also hard to execute setting up for a grand plan on screen without making it clear what that grand plan is.
Yeah, but pretty good job done in all these scenarios.
Yeah, and then we see Miss Doublefinger. I don't know if I missed something here. She stabs her shoulder, and then her arms get huge. Am I supposed to know what this is?
No, she's just buffing herself up.
Okay.
Like some sort of nerve stimulation kind of thing.
Maybe so. Her arms do look really cool after they're all spiky.
She do be buff.
But Nami, we see, has made a cloud, which she is able to eventually activate with the thunder bubble, shocking Miss Doublefinger. And the panel where she gets shocked is one of the coolest panels I've seen in a long time.
I like the shadowing there. Looks real nice.
It looks really sick. I don't think that quite finished her off.
There's one last big blow, which has Nami sacrificing her foot for the big finisher. Which this is just like such a badass like moment from Nami in general.
Yeah. And this is, I think this is what I really needed to cap off this fight and make it great, because combat-wise, this was already a good fight, but you really want your fight to do something character-wise too. And I think this is the moment that really did it, where Nami admits that stopping her with her foot is really gonna fucking hurt and it's gonna suck. But she does it anyway because she's like, the amount of pain Vivi has endured for her kingdom, and even like just us, the Straw Hats, is nothing compared to this. So she's like, I'll gladly do it.
And this is Nami's big Straw Hat badass moment. You know, Usopp had his where it was notable. We didn't really talk about it, but Usopp was offended that they made fun of Luffy's drive, and that was like his big Straw Hat badass moment of this arc. Which this would be his second one because he also had one in Arlong Park. But like this is Nami's first big moment like that.
Yeah, and like I just love this because after she did like her foot sacrifice, I think back to the Nami we knew before Arlong Park, who, even though she would like adventure with the Straw Hats and she would even like fight alongside them, she was primarily concerned about herself and her own well-being back then. And you just see how far she's come, and I just love it.
It's great. I like how she's terrified that her move is worthless at first. That's a good build up to the final like little twisty attack.
So yeah, good fight. We come back to Pluton talk, where we learn about this island destroying weapon, and holy shit, it's really scary, and I can't wait to. I bet there's going to be a whole arc or many arcs about this weapon, or that involve it, or not. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, Mr. Crocodile is not getting a lot of answers he wants, so he asks about something else. The poneglyph.
Oh boy.
poneglyph. I don't know how you'd say it.
Welcome to real ass One Piece right now. This is real hours.
Yeah, and this is like a historical record, which you can just imagine how many like secrets someone could retrieve from a record like this.
A lot.
So
A
kind of big.
lot of plot.
And then we cut away to the next big fight we have to get out of the way, which is Mr. One versus Zoro. Which again, it's just one of those perfect. It's just one of those perfect matchups that we needed, where it's like
This is the perfect matchup too. I think like
yeah,
this is such a challenge for Zoro to overcome.
yeah, just the wants to be world greatest swordsman versus the swordman man.
Sword man.
And this is kind of a goal that Zoro has told himself he wants to be able to achieve eventually, is cutting through steel, which he's going to have to do to beat this guy.
Yeah, I believe he's mentioned that like explicitly in previous arcs.
Yeah, he totally has. And it's been a thing, I think, ever since Little Garden, where I think Zoro's been struggling with his perception of how strong he is. I think starting with Little Garden, whenever he gets back on the ship, he'll like lift weights. He's constantly curling stuff, and the other members of the Straw Hat Pirates will kind of draw attention to it. And I've kept tabs on it, and he really has been doing this whenever they're lounging, just like in the background.
Yeah.
Um,
Big muscle head now.
yeah, he really wants to kind of surpass these limits that he thinks he has.
Really, it's been an extension ever since he lost to Mihawk. It's been an upward trend.
Yeah, and so this is kind of like this fight is getting us our next step towards that. And so kind of the first half of this fight is a lot of just really fucking cool
Attacks.
fighting. Like
Yeah.
Mr. One does this Kamehameha motion, and it splits the building in 5 different parts. And it
Such
looks
a good one.
really cool. And then we get to kind of the last like 1 or 2 chapters of this fight. It's kind of the finale, and it's kind of the character focused portion of the fight.
How about Zoro throwing that house though? That's pretty good.
Yeah, holy shit. Because my man lifts.
But,
Oh, yeah.
but what about what's the Swordmaster's name? And what he says?
Right, his Swordsmaster does say some important things here.
Yeah, so as far as like everything that's about to come after this, starting with the flashback, I'm going to do my best to give my interpretation of what I think it's trying to say and what it means for Zoro's character.
Okay.
This is one of those moments where I don't entirely know if I understand what Oda was going for, and it might be due to translation stuff. I had to read this chapter over several times to, I think, get what we're going for here, but we'll try it out. In general, starting with the flashback, Zoro tells his master he wants to be able to cut through anything, and he's heard there are swordsmen that can cut through anything. His master says that is true, but those same swordsmen that can cut through anything are also the ones who are able to not cut through anything. And what he means by this is that they have enough control over their will and their sword to be able to hurt what they want to hurt and protect what they want to protect. And this put me a lot in the mindset of Rurouni Kenshin, which I think that's a big running theme of it. Is
So, fun fact, Oda was an assistant on Rurouni Kenshin.
that's right, I forgot.
Yeah.
So Oda's a hack. This One Piece is just Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really, I think it has that theme in common with where a sword, people have kind of different ideas about what a sword is and what it should be used for, whether it can protect, whether it's only to kill, whether it's both. And Zoro's master says like a true master of the sword can use it for both of these purposes. And so basically keeping this in mind, we kind of have okay to kind of ground us back in reality. Zoro finishes this flashback and he throws the house, and he kind of gets the lethal blow dealt to him shortly after.
Yeah, the saw blade forearms.
Yeah, and he kind of gets a pillar collapsed on him. And in the aftermath of this pillar falling down, we see that none of the rubble hit him. He was able to, he didn't even really dodge it. He just knew that the stones weren't going to fall there. Um,
Wow.
and he kind of has this peace of mind that he didn't before in the midst of this fight, where he's kind of acutely aware of everything around him. And he kind of calls it, he
breath.
calls it sensation breathing. He can feel the breathing of his environment. And shortly after, and we'll talk about the finishing blow more in a second. He's able to actually do the finishing blow against Mr. One. So in general, I think what we're doing here is that we kind of took a necessary step in Zoro's character and becoming this master swordsman, where I think he's been so hyper focused on the goal of being able to cut anything and overpower anyone, when he should have been being focused on what his master told him, which is like having enough control over your will and your sword to use it how you want.
Which is a very One Piece kind of One Piece combat kind of lesson to have.
Yeah, and I think the turning point for Zoro here is when that rubble was falling on top of him, because I feel like previously Zolo would have. Did I say Zolo?
You did.
God.
That's two Zolos. This
Welcome
podcast.
To the podcast. So,
Don't give it up, Bradley.
Yeah, this rubble's falling on top of him. I feel like previously Zoro would have been like, "Oh, well, I'll just cut through the rocks because I can, and it looks cool that way." But I think instead he kind of has this awareness where he's like, I don't need to do this with my sword. I don't have to use it for that if I can just not get hit by the stones. And I think doing this simple act kind of was able to ground his master's words into his head, where it's like, use the sword for what you need to use it for when you need to use it.
He has the line also, my sword understands my will.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of the lesson, I feel like.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I interpreted everything with Zoro in this fight and his master. I want to know kind of what you guys' takes on it was.
That's basically my take, and I just want to say to Joe that Oda's a god.
Yeah, I guess.
This is going to kind of, like, I'm sure we're not done with this line of thinking.
Nah.
But yeah, I had to kind of read the chapter a few times to understand what we were doing here. But I do think it works for Zoro's character.
This chapter is definitely worth remembering. There's a lot here.
And then, because of this character stride that Zoro has made, he is able to cut through steel, and he's able to cut down Mr. One, which, again, a fight in One Piece is not complete for me if it doesn't do at least something for one of the characters. And I think all the fights we did in this past 1.5 volumes did that.
This is a really good stretch of fights.
Yeah, and then the volume ends, and Viz tells you to buy My Hero Academia.
What is that?
I don't know.
Is that the worm manga?
Oh, it must be. So that's where I ended this week, just because I realized I ran out of volumes that Willard.
Oh. Yeah, that's a good point too.
So,
actually, this is a perfect stopping point, because then you get the big climax. Which I believe takes like 1 or 2 volumes left.
Yeah, I think that is a good stopping point, because like we did all the fights that we set up for immediately, like against all the top broke agents. So
I'll go drop off your next batch in a second here.
Okay, that'll be good. But yeah, One Piece.
Did you like this section, Bradley?
I did like this section.
Yay!
Very cool. Some good fights.
Looking back on it, like if someone. Like, Alabasta has a very strong running for best arc to this day, I think.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I had always heard that One Piece gets to, like, stuff that's on this scale, but actually seeing it is like, holy shit, you wouldn't imagine little village boy Luffy would eventually be here.
There are several arcs that hit this, like, incredible high, where it's like, oh, if this is your favorite arc, totally understandable.
Yeah.
Joe, you got anything? Tyler, you got anything?
The big thing, I don't think there's really much to talk about. Alabasta sets up a lot, especially these fights sets up a lot of things later down the line for One Piece
Yeah.
in terms of both like story building and world building and just combat styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Alabasta for the different story it has. That like we follow the typical tropes, but I really like the part where Bradley talks about Prince Vivi like stepping in, and like that whole thing kicks off after that. Like, and so then there's like two different stories going on in this, as well as just all the split up characters. But then there's like two main stories going on, and I really like that.
Yeah, there's the Straw Hats holding back Baroque works, but then Vivi keeping her country together, and they're both just like really fun stories for different reasons.
And Tyler's right. Like, it's kind of juggling these two simultaneous storylines right here, but it doesn't feel jarring. I feel like he spends just enough time on each one to where it doesn't feel like weird when we get back to the other one.
He gets better at that.
Yeah.
And then he gets worse, and then he gets better again.
You know, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I would say the one trend is the bouncing might jump around. Ironically, it might bounce around in quality with how well he can bounce. But I always feel like the story he's telling gets consecutively better.
There you go.
Joe would probably agree.
Yeah.
That was a great One Piece talk.
Yeah, I really like talking about this one, which is crazy because I took almost no notes, but going through
I'm very excited for
the
climax.
The climax is so effing good.
It's so good. Like, I love the climax to Alabasta.
The climax of Alabasta.
Good shit, guys. On that note, this is the portion of the podcast where we let two people of the island go home. I vote Bradley and Tyler.
I vote Bradley.
Yeah,
and
you said
Tyler.
you had the freaking cast with Joe. So
No,
yeah,
it's the fork in you cast.
It's right. Anyways, hold on. Before we get there, Bradley, do you have a hypothetical for us to close the day off?
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have okay, you're getting married, right?
Oh God.
You're about to get married.
Am I?
Before the wedding, you go to your fiance's family's house for a game night.
Uh-huh.
And you draw a card, and you're gonna have to play whatever game is on that card, but it's not gonna be the game you think it is. So let's say they give you a choice of 3 cards. Actually, you're not even drawing out of a random pile. It's gonna be 3 cards. One of them says tag. One of them says Red Rover. And one of them says Ring Around the Rosie.
Okay, I have a question before. What is normal Red Rover? I don't know if I played that one ever.
When you have 2 teams that line up in a line and link hands, and you have to try to run through the other people's line of hands. You have to join the other people's team.
Okay. Go on, Bradley.
Yeah. So they show you these 3 cards. You have to pick one of these games to play, but little do you know it's not going to be quite the game you're familiar with. Which one do you choose? And then I'll tell you what the game is.
One more dumb question. How does Ring Around the Rosie work again?
You just spin around in a circle and sing the song, and then you fall down at the end.
pocket full of posy.
Jesus Christ, that sounds like a death sentence.
I choose tag because I run around.
I do Red Rover because I don't want to run around and tag.
Okay, Joe chooses.
Well,
tag.
hold on. What about Tyler? What do you want?
I'm gonna go with tag. That sounds the least harmful if I'm thinking of other things.
So Joe and Tyler choose tag. So you choose tag, and they're like, "Oh no, we have to play tag. This is terrible." And you're like, "Why? It's just tag." And they tell you that the dad's like, "I'm it," and everyone bolts out of the room as hard as they can. One guy even jumps through the window to get out. He's so desperate to get out. And the dad, Wolverine claws sprout out of his hand, and he's trying to tag you with his claws. And if he tags you, he cuts you open.
You can still feasibly survive, possibly.
Yeah. Also, he can run like 50 miles an hour.
Okay, you're dead.
Red Rover is they're like, "Oh God, we have to play Red Rover. This is terrible." So everyone lines up on either side of the room, holding hands like you'd normally do in Red Rover. and then they say, "Hey, so and so, come over." And much like Red Rover, you have to try to break through the enemy line. Except before the participant runs over in this scenario, the family has football pads with 1 foot long steel spikes all over it. So that way the people you run into get impaled like Swiss cheese.
I feel like I still have the best chance of survival because football pads make their movement bad. I can feasibly slip under their legs, while Joe and Tyler are just dead.
I feel like if I just make it to an airport and on a flight,
There you go.
I'm good for a while.
That's a bold claim that you think you can make it there, but I guess.
And then since no one picked Ring Around the Rosie, they just beat you up.
Nice. Bradley, thank you so much for the torture.
I do what I can.
You,
I want to
you
try to do hypotheticals based on something we talked about that week.
you've done it the last 3 times quite well, I think.
I get better.
It's good. It's good stuff.
So, have y'all talked about The Shining on here before?
No. You want to talk about The Shining next time?
Maybe. I watched The Shining for the first time, like all the way through sitting down this week.
Oh shit! I do want to talk about that. That's my favorite horror movie, I think.
Damn.
Holy crap!
It's good, huh? I mean, we should save this.
It's so, yeah. But that if the special guest doesn't die, like I have to make my space deliveries every week, so I could run out of space gas again.
Everyone, please send a prayer to Tyler out in space.
To the Tyler gods.
Yeah.
Oh, thank y'all.
Have a nice flight, Space Cowboy.
See you later, space kids.
I will also leave for the duration of the freaking UCast.
Forking you, Cass.
They don't know. They don't know, Joe.
No.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the freaking UCast. Now, usually... Sorry, the Fork and You cast. The holy shirt balls.
Yeah.
This is usually the segment where me and Joe are talking and we don't want Bradley, or by extension Tyler, to be there. Because we're usually talking about current One Piece or JoJolion. But this is a special occasion because what we really want to talk is we want to go full spoilers with the TV show The Good Place.
Yay!
Yay! I recently finished season 3. Season 4 is about to air in current time, and this feels like a good time to get all of our season 1 through season 3 talks out of the way.
Yeah. So, I don't. I'm not gonna go through the whole summary of The Good Place because that's way too much, and I feel like if you're gonna be listening to this, you should be watching The Good Place. And you should go watch The Good Place.
We should make a strict statement right now. We are not summarizing because you really should not listen to this if you haven't watched The Good Place, and you have even an inkling of a want to watch it.
We already did a spoiler-free version earlier last week.
Check out episode 16 of the Roundabout cast called Luffy Vor's Crocodile. I don't know if you knew about that one.
But anyways, so the way that this the show has really done a great job of coming full circle with itself, I feel.
Yeah, and in the progress breaking itself whenever possible.
Yes. And for me, I would especially after season 1 or season 2, you're like, oh, they're doing it again. It's kind of frustrating, but they're able to have these. It's so funny because our characters are both static and flat characters at the same time.
It's so interesting. It's the only show that could do that.
Yeah, and I told you this earlier, where it's this is The Good Place is telling a story, and it is the only way it could possibly tell the story that it's telling.
Yeah, it's and I think it really gets elevated because of that. There's so much thought put into the structure of the show.
Yeah, but so I want to ask you a question. Did you, at the end of season 2, did you pick up what was being foreshadowed, one episode before the finale?
About the season 1 twist?
No, season 2,
Okay, season 2, the foreshadowing of
the
of
finale. Yeah.
the season 2 finale was the one where what was there wasn't a reveal. It was just that they sent people back.
Yes.
Were you asking if I was picking up that they were going to send everyone back to their?
Well, no, not necessarily that, but something. So, okay, I'll just go ahead. So,
I mean, I know everything. You could just say
right.
it.
So, right before they go and do the whole judge thing, Chidi and Eleanor are sitting down there talking, and Chidi's like, "Man, I really wish we could have met in real life in a normal ass way, where like you're a college student or something, and you come to my door during my
Right.
office hours to learn about ethics."
Because he's
And
like, that's how normal people meet, and she's like, that's not how normal people meet.
yeah. And then later at the finale episode, you go through Eleanor when she lives past the point where she's supposed to die, and that's how she ends up meeting Chidi.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of foreshadowing like that. Like,
Yeah.
about 20% of the things Jason says come true. For example,
Yeah.
he's got the Usopp factor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good foreshadowing. So when you finished season 1, you were new. So I knew the twist to season 1, and you didn't. What did you
Right.
think about it? Because I started listening to the podcast of the show today. Actually, one thing I didn't know: the guy who made the show also made Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes, that's kind of like one of the reasons that I hopped on it, because I was like, oh, this guy made two of my favorite comedy shows. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is also really good.
Should I watch that? I haven't seen it, but Parks and Rec is like top 5 TV shows.
I think I don't know if Brooklyn Nine-Nine's like humor will resonate with you as well, but I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine still.
I need this character development, man. That's what Parks and Rec did so well, and that's what The Good Place does so well.
That's Brooklyn Nine-Nine still has that. I think it's a lot smaller compared to Good
Yeah.
Place, but it's definitely there.
But The Good Place is easily like I think it's top 5 now. And there's
Yeah.
so many points. So what did you think when you got to the twist, right?
So when I watched season 1, it literally was just, I think it just like season 2 just started airing because it was just on Netflix and I watched it. And I told you this before, when I watched the show, I literally just had it on. I was like, oh, it's one season, I'll watch it and see like, what's up. I honestly thought that it was one of those shows that was going to get like canned after 2 seasons. Because the premise seemed very limited. It's like, oh, she's not supposed to be in heaven and she's a bad person. Oh no.
How many times can she avoid getting caught, basically?
Right. And it's like, this seems like a typical kind of like gag manga sort of deal,
Yeah. But what sold me on it? First of all, I knew the twist, but
Yeah.
I was surprised that like by episode 7, she confesses, and
Yeah.
that just really threw a wrench both narratively into Michael's plan, but also that was the point at which the series stopped being predictable in any way.
Mm-hmm. And you're just like, I was shocked too. I was like, whoa, what is happening? Like, I thought like at this point Michael was gonna have to like lie, and then they were gonna have to sneak around or something like that. Like, I thought it was honestly gonna be more of along the lines of like, oh, everyone just learns to love Eleanor, and they have to keep her in a good place, and they have to do all these different things to like keep her there.
Which, to
kind
be
of.
fair, I think that would still be a decent TV show, just because the writing and the acting's so good. But that's not enough for them.
No, it's not.
They don't want their characters to be the best. They already are. Like, they won't stop at that. They also want the plot to be really fun and interesting.
And the thing is, too, like, I was shocked about the Jason reveal because I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I thought Jason, as a character, as like a silent monk, it's like, oh, that's a pretty good bit. Just like have this character that just will show up and like
3 episodes in, fuck it.
Yeah,
we know about Jason now.
Yeah, and then like at that point, you're just like, what is happening? Like,
there's something more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And then when you get like the bad place crew showing up, they're trying to claim they're Eleanor. You get the twist with the real Eleanor and the fake Eleanor, and it's like, oh man, they're building up stakes here to where's Eleanor gonna end up by the end of the season. You really can't know for sure.
Especially like the whole ethical dilemma of like, oh, well then what's gonna happen with regular Eleanor, and like, because if you were thinking about it from a regular sitcom standpoint, regular Eleanor would probably stay in for the first half of season 2, and then she'd leave for some reason. Like that's how I would picture it out going. Like if you're going like,
or season 2 would have been like just Eleanor in the bad place for a while, and like you get some flashes to the other crew, and they're gonna rescue her or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, we get something better.
Hmm.
You get the mind wipe. You get, first of all, the reveal that she's in the bad place. Now, from the offset of this show, there was one thing that if the show did, it would probably ruin it for me. It was, so I knew that she was in the bad place, but the show would be ruined if there was no good place at all.
Yes, I agree. If there was no place worth getting to.
There was a point in season 3 where I was worried that they were still gonna somehow get there, and I was like, first of all, that's a lot of people in on it, so like, first of all, that's gonna be bad. Second of all, that might ruin it for me. But they did it even better, which I think we can get to after. We should probably tackle this like season by season.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that's interesting about this show is how small the cast of main characters was. There's only 6.
Yeah. It stays close to like 5 or 10 people.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of auxiliary characters introduced later on, like Sean and the Judge and Trevor and stuff like that.
And they're using sparingly enough but frequently enough so like, oh, I know who that is, but they don't overburden
They're by no means main characters.
Yeah. They're very much more akin to like maybe like Smoker or someone where they show up every once in a while.
They're characters that are there. First of all, they're just all really fun characters. Second of all, they're there to move the plot along. But the core of the show is exploring our 6 main characters, and you get a straightforward arc with all of them in season 1. But then you reset that arc in season 2, which is a really ballsy move because that's what you were talking about. They were dynamic in season 1, especially near the end, as they all start to actually be friends. And I'm thinking that the theme of the show, or one of them, is that it's the antithesis of what Michael thought in season 1, where he thought, oh, bringing people together would be torture to them. But I think the theme that they're getting at is that people are each other's heaven, basically. Like, your relationships with others is your good place.
Yeah, and I think the big theme is like, good people come from people caring about each other, not from people being selfish about each other. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like because they all learn like how to get over their own imperfections by caring about someone else.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge development for them, is they have to learn to like, because Michael, it's really shown in Michael, because Michael's like, I've grown attached to these people and I want to be a good person. That's the way you do it, kind of thing.
So should we, at what point, like, I feel like we should talk about each of the main characters, but is season 1 the point to do it?
No, it's definitely like season 2. Season 1 is almost like it's just like a play. It's your control of these characters.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to put it. That's an absolute good way to put it.
Yeah, because in my opinion, Good Place doesn't get really good until season 2.
I agree, and I think season 2 is the best season, and they're all like amazing seasons. But season 2 was like insanely good.
Yeah, and not just in like the character development and everything, but it's also like extremely funny in season 2. Season 1 though, you really need as a way of like, you have to see what they all look like in a controlled environment.
Right.
And so you already are attached to these characters, and you already know what they're supposed to be like. So when season 2 rolls around and episode 1 starts with, we already did this 100 times. We've basically gone through 100 seasons of a television show. We can't do this.
Which is really novel. And it's interesting, right? Because now you're exploring these characters. You're getting the same story beats and the same character revelations and the same character development, and you're redoing it over and over. And it's interesting, right? Because you're redoing the same thing, but you're coming at it from different angles, and also like just sometimes speeding through it so fast that it's like it's just all happening, and it's cementing this idea that through each other they're gonna inevitably get good.
Yeah, it's through like, and we'll get to that in season 3, what they're kind of expanding on more about, like, and why the whole system's flawed.
Yeah,
but it really is like, the big takeaway is like, people working together bring out the good in other people. Like that's it. That's the whole theme, is that when people work together, it brings out the best in everyone.
And of course, season 2 is also when you start getting Michael and Janet and their
Yeah.
growth.
Uh-huh.
So Janet, they both had a little bit. So Michael always came off as a dude who was really obsessed with his creation, but also he always had some sort of fascination for just the stupid shit that humans do.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it was always pessimistic. But in season 2, where because he needs the group's help, he agrees to try to become a better person. It actually starts working, and he starts to really value the humans. And I forgot if it's season 2 or 3, but eventually, like, he straight up calls them his only friends.
It's season 2. Like,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's near the finale.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely that last arc where like they close down the place and the train and everything.
Yeah.
Uh, but like what's great about Michael's character is that Michael is still like Michael because we like we said before like season one's our control variant where we see Michael and he has these little obsessions with like the tiny things that humans are obsessed with and this perfection about like, oh, I want this to work like this. And we see that in season 1, but we see it as like a good side of Michael, you know? That like, oh, this is like good place Michael. But then in season 2 we get glimpses of like bad place Michael a lot more.
Yeah.
And even though they're on different sides of the spectrum, like motivational wise from our perspective at the time, without any prior knowledge of twists or anything,
Yeah.
he's still the same character. It's just showing that those traits don't necessarily reflect back and forth of like a good or a bad person. It's just depending on how you view that.
Well, with the
So-
same traits and just like a little bit of a twist to
Yeah.
the words that he would say, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
this is Michael pretending to be good, and this is the real Michael, you know?
Right.
But the real Michael wasn't inherently bad because he had the passion to do something. So, and like the whole thing is like, torturing people is so boring, and like this is all y'all do. Don't you want to achieve to do something different? Which is, I mean, you're still torturing people, but like, and it just goes to show you that he just has a mind that's willing to think a little bit more than his other demon friends. Also, I guess will we ever see him without his skin? I guess that's an inevitable like season 4 thing.
I bet it'd be like a bunny or something.
You bet. Well, he's probably just gonna be a generic rock boy.
Oh yeah, generic rock boy. But yeah, it's. But anyways, but on the season 2, like season 2 really is like, all right. Season 1 is just classic sitcom schlock. Season 2 is breaking down of what we're trying to accomplish with this series.
Yeah.
That's the start of it.
Which
And
is we're going to develop these characters from so many angles, and all to not only reinforce the characters and the inevitability that they're going to get better, but also this theme. Like the real thing here is that it's building that theme by showing you how it's applied in multiple ways.
Yeah. And the big thing too is like it's a big thing that happens around in this show too is like there isn't like ethically speaking there isn't a correct answer to anything. And that really shows up in season 3. Like that's like the whole point of season 3.
Yeah.
But it starts showing up a little bit here with like the trolley problem and everything.
The show in general has a good, like when it has like most episodes have a ethical lesson involved with the episode, and then it tries to personify that lesson through the plot of the episode, and that becomes like really apparent in seasons 2 and 3, especially 3, where like the episode with the Janets is like all about identity, and like they talk about that lesson, and then you get to see an application of it through the comedy and the drama.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, I don't know. Season 2 season 2 does great character development. It's our primary source of character development. Like we joke about like One Piece is starting now. Like Good Place really starts at season 2.
Yeah, I mean, not like, but season 1 is just so funny and like such a fun ride.
Oh,
but,
it
like,
is.
Season 2 is like, whoa, they're doing something like that is the point where I'm like, Joe, they are doing something actually really special with this show.
Oh yeah. And like Michael go from like Michael and Jan go from like A- to B rank characters to S+ characters by the end of that season.
Yeah, they're so good by the end of that season.
Yeah.
Like,
and
Michael's just so likable by the end, and like you feel for all the characters, like you grow to love them all, and their flaws are really often displayed to your face. They're a big part of the characters. Like this is their flaw. This is how they're annoying sometimes. This is how they're bad people sometimes. But in the end, it's like I love them all.
Yeah, but and also it's like all their flaws are not necessarily like over the top, with maybe the exception of Jason, who's just a fucking idiot.
Yeah, but even I grew to like Jason.
Yeah, but their flaws are really much like very relatable thing, where Eleanor is just like is very nihilistic and doesn't really see a point of helping anyone sometimes, because like if helping someone doesn't like help you in some way, why even do it? Tahani's all about insecurity and people's perception on you, and then Chidi is the indecision that everyone goes through when they have to make important or very small decisions. Like they're very personified like things that every human does.
And that's an important part of the show, because it's a show about quote unquote bad people, and while they have bad aspects, they're so human and relatable and fleshed out. Like there is a good reason for why everyone is like this, or there's a good showing of how their bad actions have consequences. Where a show like It's Always Sunny, where all the characters are shitty and there's no real consequences, and like there's no real good in them, they're just funny characters. Like that, if that same thing tried to be applied to this show, that wouldn't work at all. Like these characters are the perfect amount of good and flawed,
and they're all redeemable. Like that's the big thing, and it makes you kind of really think about like, well, what am I, and really like what does like, you know, if this is like, you know, if getting a bad place means I have to be better than this person is, but this person really isn't that shitty of a human being, then is it really worth it? Which is mainly the season 3's whole story, basically.
Yeah. Season 2, in general, season 2 story, you get that early stretch where they break the concept. You get them trying to help Michael pretend like he's not on his 800th reboot, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then you get the big finale where they're trying to meet the judge, which they have to go through the... Why did they go into the Blad place again?
Because they can't, like, basically, it's like, imagine yourself at, like...
Oh, right, like, yeah. They have to get to the judge through the headquarters of the... I keep forgetting they were always in the bad place.
Bad place, yeah. They were never in a good place.
How do you feel about the fact that they will never show you the bad place or the good place? Not like really.
The actual bad place and the actual good place.
They're never going to do it.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Because
it would ruin it, I think.
It would ruin like our like conception of like
all the shit they talk about.
Yeah, it's so much funnier when they're talking about like the hot dog section where they're shoving hot dogs on people's throat.
And all the
like,
all the weird tortures.
If they show that to you,
it will never live up to what your brain says. So they do it smart where they're going into like the calmest sections of each of these two places. But yeah, it culminates with them meeting the judge, and the big point is, wow, you guys have really improved, but the rules are the rules, and I'm sorry, but you guys did not do enough in your lifetime to get here, and that's all that matters, which is really crushing because we've seen how much they've developed through multiple means.
Also, the judge's character is great.
She's so funny. I like her random crush on Chidi. Yeah. That's the thing about this show. Everyone wants to fuck everybody. Like this is the horniest cast.
Like Eleanor just wants to have sex with Tahani every other episode.
Of course, more power to her.
Yeah, sexy skyscraper.
And then like everyone's like, "Oh, Janet, you're so busty," and Jason is just consistently considered hot. And then Chidi takes off her shirt and he's a rippling hunk. So like, oh my, you got like the most attractive cast. Even Michael's like a silver fox of a man. So good job.
I forgot to mention this, but so oh god, what's the name of Michael's character?
You mean his
actor? The actor.
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. Ted Danson was on Cheers and was the bartender for Cheers.
Right, and there's a scene where he's the bartender. I think in the finale. Yeah.
Which was pretty funny.
Which we can talk about that. So the goal is we can send them back in time, and all that we can change is that Michael's going to give them a little push that'll change their life.
Right.
And then we're going to see how it goes. And you get this really nice episode of Eleanor bettering herself, but eventually reality sinks in, and she's putting too much effort in for too little gain, and she's slipping back to her habits, and it's kind of soul crushing.
Yeah.
Because the point is, like, it's not just that push, it's the people in their life. They needed different people in their life for them to be able to get better.
Yeah. Yeah, the people around you really do help you be a good or a bad person.
Which leads us into season 3.
Yeah, and but that's the big point of season 2, especially, is like it's the people around you that help you make you better, and by investing in other people, you therefore invest in yourself and make yourself better.
And it's also very apparent in the first half of season 3. So I will say, the first half of season 3 is probably the weakest part of the show.
Probably,
by only a little bit. And the reason is because they're in Earth for 7 episodes, and you lose some of the humor kick of the show, which is the surrealism afterlife stuff, which is
of Janet being Janet.
Just also all the visual gags, like kicking the puppy into the sky, the giant giraffes, Janet just spawning shit into the world, just a bunch of good visual gags.
But I will say though, I think it does a really good job of. But though I also like season 3 in that section because it lets the characters kind of. It gets us to a point where they can have a more natural development, and it helps prove like what we've been thinking is that it's the people around them that make them who they are.
Even with bad place interference, it's still not enough.
Yeah. And it also shows that like it go later on in the show that it really is like. You can tell they got better because they were around the correct people, but you can't like guilt trip someone into like everything they do because of the ripple effects that they have. But that's much later in the show. But like I agree with you. It's probably the weakest part of the entire show while they're on Earth up until I would say like when it gets to the Jeremy Bearimy episodes when it starts getting better.
That episode. So hold on, but I will say it's the weakest part. But as the trade-off, it has some really good writing moments. I think it's after the Jeremy Bearimy episodes. You also get the 2 episodes where they're addressing all of each main character's the bad influences in their lives.
Yes,
where you get Tahani and her sister, which was really sad. You get
Eleanor and her mother.
You get to meet
you get
Dougie
to meet
Doug.
Made them bad people, basically.
Yeah, you get to meet Jason's family, and then what was the deal with Chidi? I think his was just like the bravery to break up with what's her name, because she's important for season 4.
Yeah,
her.
His
Simone.
girlfriend. I think. Yeah.
Who I really like, Simone. I can't wait to see more of her.
Yeah, and the thing about Chidi too was like we already kind of got his whole background with like his brother, was it, or his friend?
Yeah, he just couldn't, like, his friend like had to put up with Chidi shit his whole life, and he tried his best, but like it's a lot of stuff.
And I think Chidi's thing is less of like the people around him.
It's him around others.
Yes, it's him not realizing how much of a burden he is around others.
And I really like that. Yeah, for everyone else, it's the people and how they interact with them. But with Chidi, it's like he didn't have the people that could help him break out of his shell or give him a purpose to really realize his problems.
Yeah, he didn't have like Eleanor. Like Eleanor's whole thing is that she doesn't take shit from anyone. So when she just like, stands up to him and says like, you need to make a decision right now, it's the conflict. Like he's never had the actual conflict with someone else, only with himself.
And consistently, whenever it's a choice that involves Eleanor, Chidi can make a call very quickly.
Yes.
As we saw with the very plot relevant tape of them saying that they love each other. That's been a plot point that comes up again and again for good reason. But then they get back to the bad place, or rather, they go to Janet's Void first, which is an episode where Darcy, I forget her last name, just gets to act as everyone. Give the woman an Emmy if she didn't win one.
Yeah, she didn't. But no, that's a great episode. I also really like that episode because it does really good. It goes back to like the good and bad place stuff, and it talks about like, oh, here's the point system, and I think they do a really good like
accounting.
Yeah. And it brings up a really big point of that's interesting to think about. Like, what can you count as a good and a bad action, and like how much can you be accounted for the ripple effects of your action?
Well, that really only like they finally understand that point in the finale, right? Which is what saved. It's even better than I could have hoped for. Was like, if there is no good place, that kind of kills some of the show for me. But better yet is that life got so complex that it's impossible for anyone to get to the good place anymore. That's that perfect level of nihilism that I wanted.
And just and it's you're like, oh, like that our world is just developed because like people have been selfishly doing things, but because of such progression, it's helped a lot of people in such a big conflict and everything. Like there's that great example of, the guy went and picked the flowers for his sick mom and like trimmed the hedges and put the soil back down or whatever, and like delivered to his mom, and he got like 12,000 points. 200 years later, guy does the exact same thing, but because he bought the flowers instead, he lost like 500,000 points.
And a very good show of that is Doug Forsett, who even with all the... He makes himself miserable to be a good person, and even he gets barely any points, and he tries his best.
Yeah, and it's like... And I think that's like the big thing about season 3, especially near the end of it, where they talk more about like... You can't... Where you, as a human being, you can't be just overly unselfish. You really have to be at the point, you have to really be like, there has to be a line where you have to stop caring about the ripple effects of your life and what your actions do. And you can't be held accountable that because you bought macaroni and cheese from Kraft, you've helped, make sure that their slave labor they have in Guatemala or whatever.
Which is totally true. It all happens.
Yeah. But
those
like,
damn macaroni slaves.
Yeah. But like basically, it's not fair to judge someone based off of the ripple effects of their actions and not why they do those actions. Like that's the whole big thing. Like you can't, like if I go and I get a job somewhere and I get a job somewhere, I shouldn't feel guilty because someone else who's poorer than me didn't get that job.
It's such a good... I feel like this show at the end of it is gonna be a really good reflection of like the human condition and like how it's not easy to be a good person, but you should still try.
And also like how like there's a really small segment that I really liked when the judge is like, I'm like 100% impartial because I don't know anything about Earth, and you realize how flawed that system is. That you don't have someone that is able to relate the person they're judging and what they're going through.
I'm so glad they didn't dick around with it too, because she was like, apparently I'm black down there and they really don't like that.
That's such a good line.
And then it's like, okay, you know what, fine, okay, let's settle this, let's go to IHOP, figure this out. Oh my god, the time knife. Jeremy Baramy and the time knife are jokes that had me howling. I saw the time knife. By the way, time knife is going to be plot relevant somehow.
I think so too.
Chidi saw like all the future, so he's gonna get his memory back through that somehow.
Oh, I was gonna say like, I don't know, like they end up like cutting Jeremy Baramy in half and stitching their lives together in some other way.
But that, or like there's been a lot of build up to them ending up on the dot of the Jeremy Bear. What is this sentence we're saying right now? But like, like there's a lot of build up to them being on the I dot on the Jeremy Baramy at the end of the show. Like like Chidi says it in the last episode. It's like, hey man, we'll find each other, Jeremy Baramy.
Yeah.
That's so good. So basically, season 3 ends with them trying to reproduce the circumstances of season 1, great callback, with different people to see if they can make those people better. But the bad place gets to select the people, and they make a really good call in selecting people that's going to make it harder for it's selecting people that are going to torture our main cast.
Right.
Interesting things. Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say like it's that, and then also we come full circle because now we finally have a point where Eleanor, our main character, doesn't reset.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she takes all the knowledge that she's learned, because she ends up like sitting down, like reviewing everything she's ever gone through again. So she's basically relearned everything she's ever gone through again.
I don't know if she went through everything, but she went through
Well,
enough.
yeah, but like we now have an Elmore that knows like the ins and outs of TD, the ins and outs of her ethicality and everything, and now she's in charge of the good place. So it's really going to show like if you have a person that is, that has like good intentions in mind, what does that change? Does that matter?
I was gonna ask you, how did you feel about Chidi having to get reset? I feel like they set it up plot wise pretty well. It was a little bit annoying because it's the third time that he's getting reset, third effective time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but they also did it. They executed it in a really sad way to where I was still like really invested in it. So I guess we'll see, right?
I think it was good because it lets Eleanor be the one that takes the reins and the ethicality prospect of it and trying to push people to like be better people.
Yeah.
Because Chidi is going to go in and think he's in the good place, so he thinks he doesn't have to change.
Yeah.
So now
it's a good dramatic tension that can come from that.
Yeah, and now it's flipped where Eleanor knows like he's not supposed to be in the good place, so she has to somehow come out and like let him realize that himself.
So we know 2 of the 4 that are joining right now. We have the person who's the counter to Tahani, who is just a horrible man who kept heckling her through like his. But it's important that they're like in a similar goodness level. So I'd say he's pretty similar to Tahani. Tahani was vain, but she also did so much good. This guy seems a little worse than that. Like he doesn't seem to have.
Well, he's the opposite, where he sees everyone else as having flaws rather than he seeing himself as flawless, like Tahani did.
I feel like that's a bigger asshole.
I mean, yeah, but like his whole thing is going to be like him realizing that there's other like good portions of people too, and just because someone else makes a small mistake, that doesn't negate that other portion of that person.
I guess so.
Yeah, and then Simone, I have no fucking idea.
That's the thing. Simone seems like a really stand-up person. Like Chidi hurt the people around him. We never got any inkling that Simone isn't like a helpful, kind person.
Well, the other thing too is you have to remember is Chidi broke up with Simone not because of something that was wrong with her or him, but because like, yeah, I have to go on this cosmic quest. I'd rather not be a burden to you anymore, kind of thing. So I think like a big part of this arc is Chidi and Simone are going to get back together. Yeah. It's going to kill Eleanor. Eleanor has to basically like let it go, and she's going to have to realize of like, oh, this is why this person and I don't work together. Kind of thing.
Knife, baby. But the thing is, I mean, like on a meta level, if they're supposed to be equally bad people, and like Simone doesn't seem to be anywhere close to the original 4. You know?
Maybe, but there might also be something we don't know.
That's what I'm hoping for. I hope we learn about some flaws.
Because she wasn't in a lot of season 3. Like she shows up for a few episodes, and then like the last time we see her is she gets in a taxi that Eleanor was calling, and then that's it.
Well, before that she also gives Eleanor a good speech. But
oh yeah,
that's a bit important. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that turns out. Okay, here's the real kicker: how many episodes until they break this concept? Because we gotta introduce new characters and we gotta develop them a little bit. I'm thinking 6, like it took them half the season this time to get back to Afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking everything's gonna hit the fan at 6 or 7.
I was gonna say like episode 4.
Yeah, I don't think like we'll get to know the characters enough.
I think
maybe
like
it must not be important if that's the case.
I feel like what's going to happen is I honestly don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like episode 4 is like basically when she is going to figure out like, oh, I've done this before. Like that's where I think that moment's going to be. But
that could be fun. And then like they have to still keep Chidi helping the others because Chidi. So if we're talking about the characters now that we've covered all the seasons, Chidi is super central to the story because he's the one who can actively make all these people better through his lessons. So he that's a really good character to write into the story.
Right.
So I feel like he's very important for also the season 4 plot. We didn't talk about Janet very much, but I think Janet is like the most unique character written in just about anything.
I feel like we should talk about Janet like at another time, because there's so much that can go into her, or it's just like she is one of the most uniquely written characters like made.
Yeah, I haven't seen many characters more unique than Janet.
Because a lot of the times what happens is when people write a godlike being, it's usually like a trickster godlike being kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like, like, oh, I'm just gonna contract and then now I have your soul forever. Like very low-key kind of things.
Or just an omnipotent douchebag.
Yeah. Janet is very much just like very mellow, pretty neutral to good side of things, and like very cheerful and carefree.
She's like, good. Like even after she's found herself, she finds it hard to be mean to people, Yeah.
I'm thinking of that image of Janet when Michael finds out that she's actually the bad Janet, and they knock out Shaw, and she's just like nodding her head stupidly.
Yeah. There's so many good Janet moments. So I think like it's worth just mentioning, just like Janet is a character who has godlike power, but she's subservient to Michael. Yeah. She was also being tricked along with everyone, and around season 2 and 3, she starts learning to be her own thing. But she's explicitly not a robot, not a girl, not a woman, not a girlfriend. She's just Janet. She is just so incredibly unique. And God, what a character.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job expanding on that. Joe, we're going to wrap this up with us having to kill our children. Rank the 6 characters from fave to least fave. No, go the other way. Least fave to fave.
Our 6 main characters?
Yeah, there's 6, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason.
Okay.
Tahani.
Okay.
Chidi.
Okay.
Eleanor. Michael. Janet.
Damn, that's a good list. But here's an alternatively also good list. Jason. And I think Jason is just too dumb to be believable, but he's also so fucking funny, and also he can be really sweet. Like sometimes he's just a really sweet boy.
It's just he's really fucking dumb.
So fucking dumb. Jesus Christ, Jason. Bortles. So it goes Jason. Oh God, this is actually impossible.
It's never the last slot. It's always the second to last slot. That's the worst one.
Yeah. I'm going to go Jason, Michael. What? I know. Hold on. Jason, Michael, Eleanor, Janet, Tahani, Chidi, which is completely different from yours. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Nah.
Oh, you're going to the bad place, Joe. It's hard because like those top 5 are all very close to each other. God, but Michael's so good, and Eleanor's so good too.
To me, like a big part of it is like season 2 and season 3 are really much just like
big Michael
learning to be something more.
He's the best written character.
Yes, he has the best written arc, mainly because it doesn't break
Janet ever. Is probably the best written character, but also it's hard to connect to Janet because she's so beyond us humans. So you could make the argument that like Michael's also the best written because you can connect to him in so many ways.
But you can also say like Janet is like is a template of like, oh, I want to be that person. Like that's like the ideal like person to be, kind of. But at the same time, you realize of like how much that person has to go through, like with the whole Jason thing, and how much they're like bottling down and
maximum
like,
Derek.
Yeah.
But also Eleanor is so well written too, where like she very believably is a shitty person with her backstory, her shitty parents, just trying to be herself, not trying to fit in with anyone, to becoming the leader of this group. It's just so well done. And then the other the other 3 main characters, they have varying levels of character development, but they're all like just so funny and like round out the cast. Where it's a perfect cast. It's just perfect. All right, well, let's get the fork out of here, Joe.
Yeah.
Good talk though. This show deserved it.
Yeah. Anyways, if you haven't watched Good Place now, I don't know why the fork you're here. So go watch The Good Place.
Get your shirt together.
Yeah,
Pull out
if you
your
haven't watched
Hulu or
The Good
Netflix.
Place, yeah, if you haven't watched The Good Place, comes out September 26th. Will and I will be. I don't know if we'll be doing a week-to-week discussion about it. I don't feel like we should. We might do a mid-season one to discuss everything. But
I was thinking we could do oneers for each episode where we just give a quick, hey, this was a good episode, that was a good joke, and then move on, like a 5-minute-er.
Maybe.
Or we do a half season, but I feel like we'd have to get spoilier. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see what happens. Maybe season 4 is hot garbage, or like don't watch it. But you know,
don't break my heart.
I know. All right, gang. I'll talk to you later.